Crikey blimey, what's it, everybody? If it isn't episode 100 of the Lookout Sir Warhammer 40,000 podcast. My name is Dan, and it's that bit at the beginning of the show where I introduce my good buddy Philip. How's it going, Phil?
Very good, thank you. I'm back on the wagon. I found my painting mojo, and I'm back to painting my Minotaurs. So it's a happy day in the shed.
Oh, baby. Although you're mostly painting the skeletal details upon the old Minotaurs, right? That's the rhythm that you're in today.
Yes, yeah. I'm doing all the skulls on the bases. I'm doing all the servo skulls that are sort of floating around on the models. In fact, I've just realised I've forgotten all about one skull that is parked on the back of my lieutenant or lieutenant. Because he's attached to the belt, basically. So I forgot about that one. I've got to go back and do him. But yes,
you got to go get your bone on again.
Exactly. I'm still doing it. I'm in the highlighting stage, and I've got some washes
mid-bone
to do. Mid-bone, still more boning to go. Yes, it was funny because I'd parked my Minotaurs about a month ago because I got stuck on which colour scheme to paint up all the skull colours, and I wasn't happy with anything. So then I've spent the last month building some Thunder Warriors, and I'm like, no, I'm back in the flow of doing I've parked them long enough. And actually, one of my test models I was actually quite happy with in terms of how I did the skulls. So I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I found the recipe and discovered it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 or 8 different paint colors. So I was like, I think that was why I gave up on that idea in the first place. But I'm persevering. I'm cracking on through with it. I'm cracking on with my boning, basically.
You had a bad case of bonitis before now.
I think so, yeah. I mean, sometimes you just get fed up with something and just want to put it to one side.
That is true.
But that's
true. Like the Warhammer 40,000 podcast called Lookout Sir, right? If only. But exactly. Here we are, 100 deep.
Exactly. You get fed up with it, and then it's back just in time for you to miss it.
Exactly. That's it. Although, actually, it's a landmark occasion for us now, not only because we've done 100 episodes, but we've actually, to mark the occasion, actually gotten off of our bottoms and created merchandise. I know, right? Ooh, shill.
I like how you say we. You really mean me.
Well, I facilitated the arrangement.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Did, I negotiated the deal. You did all of the donkey work.
Exactly. So
it's the opposite of how the podcast works.
No, I know. It makes a change. It makes me feel like I'm contributing.
Mate, no, absolutely. I'm deeply impressed with what you've come up with. The selection, without being a bit too full on, I'm really happy with. I think they look great.
Well, that's good. I'm pretty pleased with it. So for those listening at home, we've got 3 t-shirt designs that I've put together. We've got 2 kind of classic Lookout Sir ones, with one's the large man with his head exploding, front and center on the t-shirt with the words Lookout Sir underneath. And then if that's too ostentatious, there's a much smaller Lookout Sir. Is it like a lapel sort of symbol, sort of across
it's more chest area.
Yeah, it just says Lookout Sir, the 40k podcast underneath. Nice and small, a bit more subtle and subdued, unlike the big garish one. I like them both. And then as part of a trend that I'm sure we will go down in the future, I've done the infamous quote of "In a crow's manner" as a t-shirt. And that's the one that's gone through several iterations, because if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see I did a very quick, rough and dirty version of it many months ago when that quote first appeared. And then since then, I've done a couple more versions, and then this is the one I'm finally settled on. So I'm pretty happy with it. So I hope you guys enjoy it too.
So if you'd like to check it out, the links are going to be in the description. It's easier than us having to say. So there we go. Also, in the spirit of continuing to get money hungry by 100 episodes, we have also taken the decision to at last offer people the opportunity to support the pod via Patreon. That is something that we have made available. It was a long, conscientious decision process around how we would best approach that. In the end, we have decided that people who want to contribute may do so for any amount of money that they choose to contribute. We're not going to aggressively promote this moving forwards. It is just something that is going to be there. Same with the t-shirts. When we've got new designs, we'll tell you about them. But we're going to be relatively selective about how we talk about the patrons. Not that we won't appreciate those that are going to support us. We will make efforts to, make you feel special at various points. But for the most part, we want to try and be a little bit conscientious of the fact that not everyone wants to hear, hundreds of hours worth of, Patreon promotion. And that's not really what we want to do either. So, yeah, it's there for those of you who want to support us, and we hope you do want to support us. But if you don't, that's equally fine. And that's about as much as I can probably say on that topic. What are we going to be doing today, Phil?
Oh, well, we're talking about the Codex roadmap that got revealed relatively recently. We're going in depth to that. We're going to be speculating about the two codexes and speculating about what armies they are and what units and models we would like them to have as a new release for them. We're also doing a little historical trip down memory lane about the Look Outside podcast, because it's 100 episodes. We're going to be a bit self-indulgent and talk about the history, maybe a bit how it started, how it's going. We don't really talk about where it's going to go because we don't know that ourselves anyway, a classic Look Outside fashion. Oh, and lastly, we've got some special guests in the form of Richie, the quizmaster, and Tim, the contestant, because we're doing another infamous end of the show quiz.
Absolutely. Promises to be a fun-filled episode, and we hope you enjoy all the various points that we raise throughout. But obviously, I want to start out by saying thank you, everyone, for enabling us to get to this point. It has been awesome to get your support as a community. And, we couldn't do it without you, although we do, but we wouldn't want to do it without you, is the more important point. And the thing is that we are, motivated to do so with your continuing contributions and assistance and help and general niceness.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for everything that you have said or done to support us up to this point. That's it, really. 100 episodes, pretty exciting. And it wouldn't be any more or less exciting, I suppose, without a 5-star review.
Come on now, Timmy. You've got your orders. You've got to do it.
But I don't want to, sir.
You've got your orders. Now get up there, get over that trench, and get me that 5-star review, and get it back here right away.
Okay, sir.
This week's 5-star review comes from Philip.
Let's say Facebook of the UK is it's just Facebook, isn't it?
Facebook's just Facebook, Phil.
Yeah.
You are entirely wrong. It is Apple Podcasts of the United States of America.
Fancy.
Ooh. We do well, Phil, in the United States of America. We don't really. We're doing all right. We're gaining traction. We're building an audience. We're creating noise, making things move and shake. It's going well.
That's good.
You seem overwhelmed with enthusiasm for that statement.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps you'll get more excited when you hear the 5-star review from an individual who goes by the name of Jason. I will say outright that the next part of this username sounds a little bit too much like it could be his real name. Thus, I'm just going to call him Jason from here on in a, probably empty attempt to give him the smallest degree of anonymity, noting, obviously, that he's left a 5-star review that you will be able to reference based on the fact that I am now going to read it in its entirety. But nonetheless, Jason's 5-star review reads, "Fine, from across the pond, 5 stars," as is, of course, a prerequisite of appearing in the 5-star review segment. "I could start with nothing but glowing compliments and champagne to these Brits from across the pond. There we go. Compliments and champagne, my friend. Are you excited by the prospect?
Suitable for 100th episode.
Exactly. Thus, me feeling like it should be, shouted out here. The champagne theming of it all, absolutely appropriate for 100 episodes. I say nay. I give you a solid mercure. I don't know what that means. I think that is a different type of alcoholic beverage. Is a mercure some kind of different champagne?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You're
being very unhelpful today, Phil.
It sounds like America, so maybe it's their version of champagne.
Oh, of course. It's America in that kind of American methodology. So this is more of the kind of Mid-South America kind of statement. I don't actually know if you associate that with Mid-South, but the point is, I assume. Well done, Phil. Good figuring out.
Okay.
Funny, educated, on topic, and of which is the best fun. Just ultimately fun. Dan, host with a straightforward strategy opinion and cranky dad approach. Well, there you go. And Phil.
Brilliant.
There you go. I'm glad you got a laugh out of you on that one. Hobby friendly plus Dan's sad, hilarious brother. There you go.
Pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't argue with that. Literally becomes one of the most addictive listens in any 40k podcast. 5 stars. Love you, kids. Sunny Florida Jason. Well, there we go. Sunny Florida Jason has given us a 5-star. Thank you, Florida Jason. And you have managed to appear inadvertently on episode 100. That seemingly means more than any other of the reviews that we've ever done, because for some reason we're trying to associate some level of gravitas to this whole thing. But to elaborate on that further is, of course, Phil.
Thank you very much, Sunny Florida Jason. You got our personality type spot on. The grumpy dad, Dan. The, what was it, sad brother of Dan.
Yes, that was it. He said cranky Dan.
Cranky
dad,
Dan.
Not cranky Dan, dad, and my sad yet hilarious brother. I wonder if you're hilarious because you're sad, or whether it's sad that you're hilarious.
I'm sure one fuels the other in some form or another.
A never-ending spiral of
exactly.
Self-pity.
The chicken and the egg. Who knows which one came first?
Well, it's true.
A perpetual cycle.
Never-ending.
Exactly.
Such as this podcast so far, the never-ending torturous event that it is.
Exactly. Yeah. But thank you very much. Yeah. Great little review.
It was a thing of wonder. Brilliant. All right, guys. We're going to get on to the show. We hope you enjoy. Transitional noise. Woo! In this part of the podcast, me and Phil are going to speculate on the Codex roadmap, what it could be, and what we would like to see for the things that we think it might actually be. That didn't really work as a statement, but there it is anyway. Phil, we have now received from the, grand folk at Warhammer community a roadmap of releases that will be taking us through to the conclusion of the year 2021. So we now know that the Orc Codex, which is already released, will go on to be released in September. The Black Templars, which have now been announced, will be coming in November. And then 2 codexes of unknown origins will be coming in the December period. So this will be us talking about them and what we think. So Phil, Orcs in September, have you any particularly strong opinions on them?
I'm going to step in and say something else, that this is less of a roadmap and more of an alleyway of mehness. I was going to say
alleyway of meh.
Of meh. Yeah, it's a
like
roadmap.
The alleyway behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant. You can smell it, but it's you only get
don't
the
want
kind of
to taste
grim
it.
end of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think as a roadmap, and let's preface it, the first reveals are Grey Knights and Thousand Suns that are coming out in August, which it is August and they have already come out, so that isn't really something to be revealed. The Orcs coming out in September, but we've already reviewed the Orc Codex. Everyone knows Orcs are coming, the Codex in special edition form is already out. So the exact date of when it comes out, you could have kind of guessed it based on the blog post where they talked about they weren't going to have it out for the first US Open. So obviously it was coming after August. So, it's great for all players that they know it is September, but it's not groundbreaking news. The fact that they were getting Black Templars also not particularly groundbreaking because they'd already previewed that Black Templars is coming. It's great that we know when. That is good. And then to give us 2 codexes in December that they won't even tell us what they are, I think is somewhat underwhelming. But it's a tease, and that's what they always do. If this also had like the first quarter of next year, and they actually said which codexes are coming, or at least whether if they're doing it vague, like Xenos codexes or Chaos codexes, that would be something that would be interesting. So to me, this isn't a roadmap. It's just, like I said, an alleyway of meh. I think it's somewhat disappointing as an actual
an
roadmap.
alleyway of meh. I'm still enjoying that statement. I mean, for me, I think what's interesting is what kind of gets put in around the blanks. I mean, obviously we know that we are going to receive an absolute truckload, pun intended, of orc related goodies in the month of September. Obviously we've had the Beast Snaggers box, but there is a whole slew of orc releases that need to come out. All manner of new Beast Snagger kits, war bosses, new orc boys, all of the different stuff that they have basically been talking about. So the orc release is massive, and it is not surprising to me, based on that September window, that it's going to be all the way till November before we then see the Templars come in, because it seems to me like the orcs are going to have an absolute truckload of releases. And then obviously
I was going to speculate. I think October's left blank for the specialist games Horus Heresy thing. The
Horus Heresy thing. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously that is on the horizon also. But, let's not get into that just yet as we start exploring these codexes specifically.
But you are right in terms of what else is coming. So there are obviously orc models, but also there's bound to be the Octarius Warzone books. So they haven't put those in here as well. That would have been a nice thing if it was a bit more of a generic 40k roadmap in terms of stuff. And I think that's probably in terms of books, all we're going to get is going to be Warzones and Codexes, right? I can't imagine us getting anything else in addition to that. I mean, they might go supplements. They potentially might go with something else a bit more left field, but it doesn't seem likely. I think Warzone books are going to kind of cover us for all that additional content. Obviously, White Dwarf's still going to have stuff every now and then with special rules in and stuff, so that's always something to keep an eye out on as well.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot that needs to come through, and again, it depends what their roadmap is on Kill Team as well at the moment, right? Because at the moment, one of the things that's been really interesting about Kill Team is the fact that, with the exception of the Orc Commandos and the Astra Militarum Veterans Krieg, none of the other forces that they've released in their supplement book, in their
the compendium
book, the compendium book, nothing in there is all that comprehensive. All the rules that reside within that book are simply just, this is what this model moves, what it hits on, how many attacks it's got in melee and at range, but they aren't anything close to what they've given to the 2 kill teams within the Octarius box. So it's going to be interesting to see what the release schedule is shaping up to look like for that.
Well, they did actually give a roadmap for that, and
did they?
Yeah, it's that was a bit more comprehensive, although they didn't again tell you what they were. They were just saying there's a new equivalent of the Killzone Octarius box coming for other war zones. So and they didn't really qualify what it was. So I think it's every quarter basically you get a new war zone. Is that a boxed game with terrain, 2 teams, and a core rule book? Is it going to be more like it used to be, where it's a kill zone terrain set and a book separate, and maybe the 2 units are released? I mean, it would be interesting if their business model was, let's do a core box with rules, terrain, 2 teams, 4 times a year, because I mean, that is an interesting way of capturing the market, by basically making people buy that again and again if they want to collect absolutely everything. But on the other hand, it might be really good if you just want a particular unit. You can just buy the box with all and get the game up and running. It feels like they need to be able to cater for people that have bought Octarius and then don't need the tokens, the rule book, the rangefinders and stuff like that. So they hopefully will split out these releases later on. But the next one's apparently September, which is breathing down upon us already. Which was one of the reasons, and we haven't really talked much about Kill Team on this podcast. I hope we will at some point. But one of the reasons why I didn't buy the Kill Team box was because this other stuff is coming around the corner, and I'm a bit like, I want to see what that is. If it is going to be another similar box set, will it have better terrain and better kill teams that I'll be a bit more invested in? Because to me, it's like the Krieg is cool, but the orcs I don't need, and the orc terrain I don't really want. So therefore, it's not really a value proposition for me. In fact, I ended up buying the core rules, the Octarius rulebook, the token, all the gaming stuff, minus the models and terrain, via an eBay seller for like 35 quid. So way cheaper to buy it that way than either buying the split stuff from Games Workshop or buying a box and then selling those bits on or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't buy Kill Teams because I bought everything for the last edition of Kill Team and played a sum total of 8 games. So I'm like, you know what? It's just not worth the level of investment. I never played Kill Team Elite, Kill Team HQ, Kill Team Arena, and I bought all of it. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm fine. I think obviously if they release a Kill Team that excites me, I think that's going to be something that obviously changes. If they do give me something like an Elder Corsairs Kill Team, which I would utterly love to see, I think any kind of like obscure. But the reason I say Corsairs is because they've given us Krieg, and I'm just thinking of like other Forge World style armies that have kind of been popular but haven't really ever seen any huge amount of support. Yeah. I think Krieg were the obvious front runner, but I'd love to see.
Well, you say that. Given the choice between the 2 Forge World Guard units, I think Elysians would be more thematic for Kill Team as a elite Kill Team force dropping down. Yeah. They seem to make more narrative sense as a Kill Team than Krieg. But you are right. It will be interesting to see what they do going forwards. It does seem like every single faction is getting a unique box set of models for Kill Team, and therefore every faction in 40k is getting either a resculpt of an existing unit like the Orc Commandos, or they're getting a brand new unit that's going to plug into their 40k army to an extent, not quite Guard veterans. I mean, it's a bit hard to say because the rules for the Krieg Guardsmen, there are no 40k rules for them at the moment. It's like, there is a veteran guard squad, but the loadouts, I think, don't quite match up with the gear that they can now have. Like, there's no rules in 40k for having a flare gun or a map or a weird or a timepiece and what else you get? A weird sort of power fist that isn't quite a power fist. They've got lots of equipment that isn't really in the rules, so it'd be interesting to see how that develops for 40k.
Well, you've seen with the Orc Commandos that they obviously are going to add that into the Astra Militarum when they get around to them. But yeah, no, I don't know. I'd love to see. Yeah, for me, top of my wish list would be either Harlequins or Corsairs. I think if they did something with either of those two, because Harlequins need another style of thing. I don't know what that is or could be, but I think if you're going to explore that idea, I think Kill Team's a great place to do it.
Yeah, I mean, how would you feel if they just gave you generic Elder Guardians in plastic?
I'd be fine with it. I think if they gave us Rangers, like new plastic Rangers would be cool. I think Aspect Warriors, if they gave us like Striking Scorpions or something, or some kind of mixed Aspect Warrior unit. Yeah, anything to that extent, I think would be super interesting. Or again, a new Drakari unit that was, or Exodites. I mean, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, throw Corsairs to the side. Give me space elves on dinosaurs like that. I mean, wow! Like, you know, there's definitely stuff you can explore within those Xenos races. I'd love to see things like, you know, like some of the obscure, smaller alien species within 40k being brought to life in a kind of Kill Team setting.
Well, what's interesting in the Kill Team website, Kroot are listed as a separate faction from Tau. So
Kroot would be so cool.
Hopefully they get their own new box set of new models. I would love it if in 9th edition they get their own faction or like a supplement to Tau. It's sort of like an adjacent codex, a bit like how Genestealer Cult is adjacent to Tyranids, but very closely associated.
I'd love. There was a great story in the old 4th edition. I think it was the 4th edition Codex Elder, talking about a ranger from the Elder stalking a Kroot, and basically how this Kroot was, or maybe it was even in a Tau Codex, but it was basically talking about how this Kroot was trying to hide in the jungle while being pursued by an Aeldari ranger. I thought that was awesome. So the idea of like Kroot and Rangers would be amazing as like a box set in like a jungle setting or something.
Yeah, because you got the Kroot mercenary from Blackstone Fortress. So just make more of him would be really cool.
And then you got the Ranger in Blackstone Fortress. So give me more of that. So yeah, no, I think, and also, I mean, to that extent, a Rattling Kill Team. Oh my God, a Rattling Kill Team would just be unreal. Like, you know, like please, or even like an Ogryn Kill Team, or like a Rattling with Ogryns. Because again, I think as we've sort of seen with what the Dark Tide video game is doing with that kind of a zombie cast, they've got like the big ogre Ogryn, and I think there is a Rattling in that game. I might be wrong, but the point is that like that kind of
it's weird because Kill Team, like the original version, was very much a mixed bag of different types of units all working together. The current Kill Team doesn't seem to be that. It's kind of one unit type fighting together they're called fire teams, but you can have, depending on your faction, multiple fire teams. I think Space Marines just get one though, so they're locked into like just intercessors. They can't have an intercessor, an aggressor, and something else. But then if you look at the new one, so Orc Commandos are still technically just one unit. Veteran Guard are still one unit. It will be interesting if they do multiple faction specific units. So will you get another Guard unit coming down the line, either as new models, or as you say, like the ability to take one Ogryn, a Rattling, a couple of Scions, and a Guardsman together.
A Rattling Kill Team would be amazing, though. And also like an Inquisition Kill Team, like actually having a henchman warband.
That would be good.
I'd love them to expand on the Rogue Trader and the what was that?
The Galapox Infected.
Yeah, the Galapox Infected are incredible, but there was the human side of things.
They
were like the
Euclidean Star Striders. Yeah, the Ukulele Star Striders, I think.
It was something star something or other. Yeah, but like even expanding on those ideas would be super fun. And I think that's the thing. I think for me, that's what this can be. It's like, let's tap into those things. Because imagine, I mean, we said it before when we were speculating about it. Imagine a like a tech marine leading servitors. There's a new plastic tech marine with servitors option, and like other things like, I don't know, you could have like the old what were they called, like pit fighters or whatever they were from Necromunda, where they're like more like gladiatorial, like, or even like what the robots they use in Space Marine training facilities, the those servitors that are combat servitors for like training cages and stuff. Like, there's just so much stuff you could do with it. I'd be so excited to see what they come up with. But this isn't us talking about Kill Team. That was just us filling in the blanks. Let's talk about these codexes, Phil, and let's talk about what we think. So we know orcs straightforward. We know Black Templars now. We've started to see that Black Templar with the weird elongated flamer. Looks terrible, but I'm sure it'll be better when I get used to it or see it in reality. But I'm not into it. I don't like the underslung nature of the
I think everyone has criticized that, and it is interesting that Games Workshop, normally knock most minis out the park. Sometimes I'm a bit ambivalent about them, but they're not bad minis. I think when we talked about the Emperor's Champion, I was like, it's okay, like it's not great, not terrible, but this one, everyone has gone, it just seems weird. It's a bit bad in terms of the pose of how the model is holding the weapon. So he's got this kind of top grip that should really be for an underslung weapon that's being held much lower down. And in our sort of private WhatsApp chat that we have, I did a comparison. I showed you this is what it should look like. So if you look at the Eradicators, they've got a top grip, but it's a handle, so they're holding it sort of sideways. Whereas this Pyroman, I can't remember the name of it.
Pyromancer, Black Templar fellow, yeah.
He's sort of holding it a grip where he's got to sort of hold it like a briefcase, but upwards. And if you were trying to hold your hand at that angle, like yourself, like for even 2 seconds, it's actually incredibly painful. It's
but
not
these
a
are
natural
genetic
pose.
super soldiers, Phil. They can have wonky arms.
I know this is the thing. It's an easy way to explain away these sorts of things as they're superhumans. It's for future technology. Because the other main complaint about it is he's literally touching the heatsink. And wouldn't that get hot? And it's like
he's wearing armor.
Well, exactly, he's wearing armor, so maybe it wouldn't. But even so, it feels like they've taken elements of much older, like Horus Heresy heavy weapons squads, where they are properly underslung weapons, where they're being held much lower down, but they've got that similar top grip, and it feels like they've applied it to this. But it doesn't quite work as well because he's holding it too high. He's holding it like a rifle. And the thing that annoys me is the back part of it just looks like a bolter, like the assault bolter. I think's got a similar dial bit at the back on them. Although weirdly, if you look at the Salamander Captain, I believe it is, or Lieutenant, where he's got a custom flamer pistol, it is a similar design with the similar heatsink, but not as stupidly long, and that weird kind of cylindrical disc bit on the back. So there are design cues taken from that, and they've added it to a rifle-sized weapon, but it just it feels too much like a bolter with bits stuck onto it for my liking. But as a unit, like if this was a Hellblaster unit where everyone in the squad could take it, oh my god, that'd be cool. I would love that. But I would also love it that if every chapter could take it and not just be a Black Templars specific thing, which I suspect it will be.
I mean, it's cool, though, that they are going to be giving some other specialist units to the Templars. I mean, obviously, we know that historically they had the Crusader squads, and we knew that they had the Sword Brethren. But that was it, really, bar a few characters and that one specific Crusader build. They had other affinities with other, specific kind of types, but they didn't have any kind of other general units. And when you compare that to the other supplement armies, Space Wolves have an absolute wealth of unique units. Admittedly, the majority of those are all firstborn units, but irrespective. Same thing, the Blood Angels, same thing for the Dark Angels. All these guys have got like tons and tons of old firstborn specialist units. I think with only I know, because Deathwing and Ravenwing does extend to some Primaris units as well, but it's not a specific Primaris unit. It's just a keyword addition and some extra rules. But yeah, the fact that they are doing Primaris specialist units for the Templars is an interesting sign of potentially things to come. And I appreciate the fact that the Templars are getting that attention. And if it is that this release is going to have new Primaris Sword Brethren, new Primaris Scout squads that you can make Crusader squads out of, I think that's going to be really exciting. And then obviously, as we know, we've got the Emperor's Champion. A lot of people online are saying that Grimaldus is coming, and
Helbrecht.
I
mean, if you're going to do anyone, you're going to do those two. Will you get special servitors? That is something I would be interested in.
I think that has to happen unless, of course, they change the way that, unless Grimaldus no longer sees any necessity in carrying around the relics from Hell's Reach anymore. But I think that's such a cool and interesting part of his character that I would love to see that maintained. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. I mean, the Black Templar stuff is going to consistently drip out now as we get towards that November release date. I'm excited for the Templars.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I think the Templars are in a good place. And already the existing Space Marine range that came around with the Indomitus box set already perfectly suits the Templar visual anyway. The Blade Guard, the Blade Guard Ancient, the Chaplain model they did, all of the contents of Vigilus really suited the Templars. So to see a Templar Codex is exciting, and extra exciting if they're getting a complete range refresh with new Primaris models. So I think we can both agree that obviously September, October, November, happy. December 2021, what do we think this could be? I will say, I don't think these are going to be big releases. I think these are going to be similar releases to what we saw with Grey Knights, Thousand Suns. I think we're looking at one unit, one character in addition to the books, because I can't see them chucking out a massive release with a whole massive range refresh in December. So at that point, I then start to think to myself, well, what are the ranges that are the most well supported that don't have codexes at this point? And I think I land at Tyranids, and I land at Custodes, Genestealer Cult, and I'm trying to think if there could have been another option. I think it has to be between those three. I can't see it being Craftworlds, because Craftworlds needs to be a massive release. Like, if they're not doing new stuff for Craftworlds, I just don't know what they're up to at that point, because there's just so much stuff that they need to add to Craftworlds, whereas Genestealer Cult don't need anything massively new, although I appreciate there's some Genestealer Cult players out there who probably feel like that isn't the case. Tyranids, they've got the Pyrovore, the Biovore, the Lictor, and the Death Leaper, I think, are the only old non-plastic minis that they got. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that could have been Tyranid-esque.
Well, there's quite a few things that were Forge World specific. Like, you got the you had Tyranids with wings that you could have before, and I got the impression they were still a unit choice.
The Gargoyle?
Game. No, like actual Tyranids, like the Tyranids.
Gargoyles are actual Tyranids.
No, I mean like the Tyranid unit that's called Tyranids. Like,
you what, mate? The actual Tyranid unit that's called Tyranids?
The guys with the 4 arms and the bone swords.
Oh, Tyranid warriors.
Yeah, like the Tyranids, like Tyranid warriors. Yes, there were. I'm sure there was a version of them before.
There was, yes.
There was a flying one, but you could only get the upgrade kit via Forge World, so maybe something like that. I mean, I don't think it would happen. I think the Pyrovore, Biovore, as you say, is the most likely option, or Lictor, Death Leaper combo. So if it was going to be them.
Yeah, I think if it was going to be the Nids, I think realistically, if you give them a new Death Leaper Lictor kit and you give them a new Biovore Pyrovore kit, I think it basically just completely like delivers a full plastic range for NIDS. Should they look at adding a new type of unit or a new type of thing, a new character? Yeah, sure, maybe. But for me, I think as long as they address those remaining 4 resin or metal kits or however they do them now, I think that at least kind of updates the NID range. And that's why I look at the NIDs and think like they're a likely candidate. Going through the list actually as well, and now thinking about it a little more, Tau also meet that criteria because the Tau range is pretty robust. At this moment in time, I think the only resin or metal kits that you need for a Tau army are the sniper drones with their drone controller and the Vespids and Kroot Hounds and other Kroot variants. But if it is that they deliver us new Kroot sculpts through Kill Team, then I think that satisfies a number of the Kroot criteria. And then seemingly all you need to do then is update the sniper drones and the Vespids, and you have a completely
Was some of the
plastic range
ethereal
again.
characters not still in resin?
So the ethereal, there are plastic sculpts for the ethereal. Interestingly, looking at the website as I'm scrolling up and down it right now, I can't seem to see a standalone listing for the plastic ethereal, but there is definitely a plastic ethereal. You can actually sit him on a drone, so you can have him floating on top of a drone. Oh, he's in the Start Collecting Tau Empire box.
Right, yeah, I thought that might be where he'd lie if he's
Yeah.
not in a standalone
But it's
release.
weird that they've not done him as a standalone figure. I mean, it's weird that they would have removed him from the listings and only do him in the Start Collecting box. But c'est la vie. But yeah, so I mean, Tau are a potentially strong option as well. So Tau, GSE, Tyranids, Custodes, obviously as well. I think the majority of people are saying it's Custodes and Nids, right? Like that's the rumor I've heard people banding about.
When I have divined the Emperor's Tarot, I've come up with Custodes and Gene Stealer Cult. From
you're going GSE.
GSE from what people have been saying, and a similar thing to you where, well, it's not Custodes, it's Talons of the Emperor. So it will include Sisters of Silence. Yeah, the general impression I get is it's going to be like a character model, maybe a unit as well. And that will be interesting. So with Custodes, what I've heard is there'd be like a lieutenant type model. So not just a captain, a second in command option, and then potentially a sisters unit, which would make sense from a maybe like a Kill Team box point of view. It will be interesting to see how Kill Team ties into the releases of the codexes. Will they have models around a similar time? So obviously Orcs came out with Octarius, and then the Orc Codex also came out around the same time, weirdly before and after it, but nothing to do with Guard whatsoever. So it'd be interesting to see how these Kill Team releases come out and if they tie in loosely with a Codex coming out around the same time to upgrade units. So yeah, I could imagine Sisters of Silence getting another unit of some kind, or their own HQ unit, because I think they sort of need their own if you want them to be independent, like take a battalion of them, need an HQ for them. GSC, it sort of feels like they've got everything that they could possibly want. As a standalone without going into Brood Brothers, it feels like they lack stuff with a fly keyword, so some form of flyer or unit that can fly I think would be quite useful for them, but that to me doesn't feel very thematic with them being miners and stuff, so it sort of feels like they should be a bit more land based. I don't know, what would you do with GSC?
I think if GSC, I think the first thing you need to address with the Gene Stealer Cult is how do you in a codex address their symbiotic relationship with the Astra Militarum book, because up to this point, the way that they've explored that idea is by adding the Brood Brothers regimental doctrine, to the forces of the Astra Militarum. And I think what that means is that obviously you need that Astra Militarum book. And I think that is something that I'm observing they are moving away from with these 9th edition books. I think they are looking at making them relatively self-sufficient and not necessarily requiring that you have other books to make them run. Obviously, there are add-ons that are being done through these Warzone pieces. And in some instances, we are getting supplements like for the Space Marines. But I think if you wanted to do Brood Brothers justice, you probably would need to express that as a supplement for Astra Militarum. But I think what's more sensible is if they just flesh out the range of what a Gene Stealer cult army can take from the Astra Militarum ranks. So clearly defining what tanks and what units can become part of the GSC. Obviously, that will mean that, you know, things like Scions and other stuff fall out. But then I would love to see a little bit of extra flavor added to the Gene Stealer cult, where we start to see hints of Gene Stealer cults that are formed within different communities, different races. I think it's very interesting that, you know, the idea of the GSE are only expressed through, you know, human civilizations. You know, the Tyranids did not come to the galaxy of 40K to exclusively go after humanity. So clearly they should be using similar kind of tactics to overthrow Orc empires, Tau empires, Elder empires. Like, they have to be using similar kind of tactics. Now, I understand that, you know, these races will have ways and means of discovering these, much like obviously the humans do. But I think it'd be fun to see some little hints of that, like maybe adding in a unit of Gene Stealer cult that are based around some Tau or some Elder genotypes, like where maybe they've got, you know, like representatives from other, you know, cultures or things that have
it
indoctrinated
sort of feels
themselves.
like you've got to do a bit of mental gymnastics to explain that, though. So if you've got a Gene Stealer cult uprising on a hive world which compromises most of your army, to then go and there's some Gene Stealer cult orcs here as well, like, it doesn't logically make sense. Although I would like to see them, just because they did exist in, you know, 2nd edition 40K. You had Gene Stealer orcs. I think you might have had some Gene Stealer Elder, maybe, or squats. You definitely had Chaos orcs as well, which was another weird one. So harking back to that kind of era is what Games Workshop loves to do in terms of like mining its old ideas. So it'd be great to see something like that, even if you, as you say, it was just a unit and somehow it was bought in, because you could arguably go Gene Stealer Elder, Gene Stealer Tau, Gene Stealer Orcs. They could potentially be 3 new factions in their own right, as fleshed out as the human version of Gene Stealer cults, which would be mad. They wouldn't ever do that because that's just weird, right? But that would be amazing. Or if it was expressed in some way of just a unit or an HQ or something.
Yeah, I think the problem is, and I think again it shows a relative lapse in the 40K lore and kind of world building, in so much as so much of it's told from the human perspective. And I think because obviously as humans we understand the infrastructures that power and create our own societies, so it's easy for us to relate to the constructs and the bureaucracy and the you know, the opportunities for corruption within our societies. And I think ultimately, you know, it's very easy to attribute that kind of attribute to human beings. But when you're dealing in the fantastical, when you're talking about orcs and you're talking about Elder, you know, their societies aren't so well fleshed out in our minds, because obviously we aren't those things. And in a way, part of that kind of sci-fi fantastical world is that, you know, these Elder creatures are, you know, an ascended form of life that, you know, are beyond the limits of humanity. And I think as an idea from a kind of narrative perspective, it gets really complex to even begin to express the sorts of constructs that exist within their society that the Gene Stealers could exploit. But I think it is very, very limiting to suggest that the Gene Stealers and the Nids only have influence over humanity. The idea that every other race just gets attacked head on and only humanity have this espionage element to them before the attack from the Nids comes is a little bit kind of limiting, in my opinion. But again, I think it's cool. How you express that in terms of those ideas, I think you are right. That's where it gets complicated, because adding a unit of orcs probably does get a bit weird. But yeah, beyond that, though, I think they need something. I think they need a mid-tier unit. I think in terms of at the moment, they've got the Aberrants, and they're obviously the muscle unit. But I would like to see something that was a little bit more kind of something like the more kind of armored, more ranged variant of these guys. Again, I know they've got the jackals or whatever they're called, the bikes.
The bikes, yeah, jackals.
Yeah, those guys, and obviously that gets some of those ideas across. But I don't know, something a bit more armored, like the idea that they've actually kind of, something with a bit more kind of like heft to it. So yeah, something along those lines. But
yeah, they've got
flying vehicles.
Two of the rock grinder and the other one. It feels like they even need to have a smaller vehicle that's bigger than the buggies and bikes, but smaller than the trucks, or just another variant of that thing. Obviously, the limo was the classic vehicle that they used to ride around in second edition. That doesn't really seem thematic anymore. But some other kind of vehicle would be cool just to add that to it, though. It was weird. You had like the rock grinder sort of meta in 8th edition when they were really good. But I've almost never seen them on the tabletop myself.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the rock grinder here and there, but not too frequently. But again, I think that's just the sad state of affairs with the vehicle situation in 9th edition at the moment. But yeah, I don't know, something else. But I think they definitely need to define what the links are between the GSC and the Guard, and then work out how that needs to kind of take shape and what units it is they're taking from the Astra Militarum, and build that into the deck.
Yeah, well, to me, I think that's the bad way of going about it, because then what you're doing is suddenly you're putting stat lines of a Lehman Russ, for example, into GSE Codex, potentially months before an updated Guard Codex is coming on. So imagine they go battle cannons damage free, and it's like, oh wow, so GSE get them before Guard get that. It just seems a bit weird. And then in terms of balance, if they're wanting them to be the same points, if they want to make an FAQ to a Lehman Russ, they're suddenly doing it in 2 places, not 1. To me, it's that sort of weird dichotomy of a bit like when they released the Forge World Guard units, not with the Guard Codex. So it's like, how balanced are they going to be by the time the Guard Codex comes out? You then get that same problem with Gene Stealer Cult. So to me, I would keep it how it is, and it's like you can get access to these units, but the units you've got to get from the Codex, which does mean if you want to do Gene Stealer Cult with Brood Brothers, you've got to buy Guard Codex and Gene Stealer Cult. But if you want them to have everything, you kind of need to do that. If you're just giving them literally access to 1 or 2 things, I think that would frustrate players that have bought and converted up models that aren't on that list anymore, or it would just be too limiting, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a fair point, mate. I'm just thinking in line with what is sort of happening in other places and how they kind of further define that. But if it is that they just want to add it as a Astra Militarum expansion, then fine, if that's how they want to do it. But that's just something I was.
What about on the Gene Stealer Cult Knights?
I mean, Gene Stealer Cult Knights, I think a knight of the whatever claws or whatever you want to call it, I think there needs to be GSE Knights for sure. I think that would really be helpful for the list. I think, I genuinely, knightly households, they should definitely be able to pick and choose. We should have GSC Titans.
GSC AdMech.
Yeah. I mean, by the extension of what I was saying before, absolutely. I don't think it'll work within the context of what we're saying. I mean, again, I don't know how the Gene Stealers get on with the AdMech, because obviously everything's quite radiated, isn't it? It's sort of like, we are a very, very specific bioorganism, and we are going to try and infiltrate basically a world that is nothing but inhospitable to our
Yeah, and I
genetic
guess
makeup.
it's more, half of the people have been lobotomized and their minds are sort of being controlled remotely by things through the noosphere. It's like, how would that work with the Gene Stealer Kiss?
Yeah, I don't see them being able to enter into the constructs that is the AdMech. But maybe that's to the same token of why it's complicated for them to infiltrate the orcs, right? And that kind of stuff. But, I'd assume they'd have an easier time infiltrating the orcs. But again, it's maybe, it's something to do with like the orcs' latent sort of psychic powers and general kind of resilience and stuff. Like they're just not able to be coerced in that way.
I was going to say maybe the more obvious one. Actually, it wouldn't work, do they? But I was going to say Gene Stealer Space Marines. But they don't have a life cycle in the same way that works for humans. So
yes,
I think that's why that wouldn't work.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? They kind of interbreed into the kind of they get into the mix, as it were. Whereas I suppose when you're trying to merge with mushroom people in the form of orcs, it doesn't quite work in the same way. On the Custodes side of things, though, Phil, I just think you need some vehicles. I think it's laughable that the only two vehicles the Custodes have access to is a gold Land Raider and a gold plastic Contemptor Dreadnought in terms of the GW range. I think, obviously, Forge World has filled in the blanks quite fantastically with the range that they've produced, and obviously the Dreadnought kits that you get from Forge World are exceptional for the Custodes. So maybe they don't need to address those variables, but certainly some kind of tank, some kind of armored thing to really kind of enhance that Custodes range. I think that's something that I would love to see, something that adds to that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised if some of those Forge World units come over to plastic. It feels like if you're gonna do anything, they would be a popular range, you would assume.
Well, they're popular as they are, though, mate. You don't.
Well, that might be why they go, we just keep them as is, because they're relatively chunky. They're not like Krieg with tiny ankles that snap off constantly. So, in terms of the ease of manufacturing, you might go, we can save more money by making these in plastic. But they might go, they sell okay, and we're okay with how that is currently running.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the charm of the Custodes range, though, is that that it has that Forge World element to it, because it kind of feels fitting for what they are, that they would have that, they would have all that sort of stuff, but it's hidden in Forge World. It sort of kind of plays into the archetype of the army in a way that they're the bestest of the bestest. Therefore, you need to go to Forge World and spend more money on them.
It's very meta in a way.
Yeah. But if not the GSE and the Adeptus Custodes, I think obviously NIDS are a very real possibility as well. And I think if it is the NIDS, I'd just like to see them plastic those 4 things that I outlined. And obviously if they could add a new unit, then that would be fantastic as well. But as has been kind of traditional up to this point for these style of releases, all they've seemed to do is go, here's the thing and a character. We saw it with actually, crikey, for the Blood Angels. What did the Blood Angels get? The Blood Angels got nothing. No, they got nothing. Oh, no, they got Mephiston, didn't they? Primaris Mephiston. But he came in Psychic Awakening. So they got nothing.
Yeah, like Grey Knight's Thousand Sons just got, box set with a new character. And that was it, which was odd. But but okay, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, based on that, moving forwards, it's like, what can you expect? Do you think they're gonna do new units, or do you think they're just gonna add new characters? Do you think they're just gonna be like, have a character and that'll do?
Well, this
I
is,
suppose for GSC that'll be fine if they go, here's a new thing. I don't know.
I mean, the one thing that Gene Stealer Cult don't need is a new character, because they're just swimming in them already. So if they did get anything, and they might not because they're such a new range already, it's like, I mean, saying that, Sisters is a brand new range and they still got tons of stuff, but they've had their sort of second cycle, or they just had their second cycle, which is what Gene Stealer Cult had last year. So yeah, it'd be interesting if they keep fleshing out Gene Stealer Cult. I mean, if anything, I'd almost like them to go down a bit more faction specific in terms of like sub faction. So, you know, the Blades of the Cog, or whatever they might be called. You know, the specific sub factions for GSC, explore them in more ways, and flesh them out to the same level as Space Marines and their chapters, with special characters. Not that they need characters, or special units, because maybe they do need new units.
Interesting though, isn't it? It's interesting to see how the year is going to shape up and what's left in it. It's also interesting that now it is approaching the end of August and we're entering into we're a little ways off, but we're entering into the fourth and final quarter of the year. So yeah, it's an interesting process how these things kind of progress and how stuff develops as it goes forwards. I'm excited to see what is around the corner. I think, 2021 has been a bit of an interesting year for the hobby. Obviously, all the other things taken into consideration, but no, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to come. I think Black Templars are cool. If the Kill Team releases give us lots of curious little interesting elements, I want to see that Inquisition stuff. I want to see the Rattlings. I want to see those Corsairs that I'm obviously talking about now. I want to see all those things. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, I think weirdly the more interesting thing is the Kill Team and the Kill Team roadmap, and what they will bring inherently to the 40k armies that they're producing these units for. So I think that'll be almost more impactful in terms of the range refreshes that aren't getting an orc level refresh, and it will just be, but potentially if there's, Grey Knights, Thousand Suns, they haven't had new models yet for Kill Team. So it'd be kind of cool to see what they're going to do to them. It's like they've already got their Codex. Will it just be then updating one of those units that isn't photographed in the Codex that we mentioned? Will it just be updating one of the kits? Will it be a brand new unit and it will just come out months later, like next year? I mean, who knows? I think that's the thing. We hopefully get at least 2 more Kill Team boxes this year. So I think by the end of the year, we'll have a bit more of an idea of how it's all panning out and how it relates to the 9th edition releases.
Indeed, mate. Indeed. But until then, I guess that will wrap it up for this part of the pod. And we're going to move on now to whatever it is that comes next. Thank you very much. Woo! All right, and Phil, in this part of the podcast, we're going to do that self-indulgent thing of talking about 100 episodes of Lookout Sir. Although not technically 100 episodes of Lookout Sir, because this is episode 100, so it's difficult to reflect upon 100 episodes when you are in this moment in time doing said 100th, although as we've probably acknowledged at tedious lengths at this point, technically you could call this the 102nd episode of Lookout Sir once you go back through the entire catalogue of things that occurred and add in the test episodes and everything else that kind of came along. But I think it's just good to have a little bit of a moment of reflection, mate, and hopefully people will enjoy our general insights on the experience. So how's about you just get started, Phil? I mean, what was your... We could start at the beginning. What was your initial kind of thoughts? Because this project, what became Lookout Cert, was a thing that had been floating around in the ether for years before it actually came to pass. I mean, we'd been talking about doing something for a while.
Yeah,
And I'm never entirely sure
floating around in the backs of cars as we're driving back from Warhammer World normally.
Exactly. Not just Joe's, biohazard style excretions floating around in the back of the car. There was, other ideas percolating in those times.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I think in a way part of it was the long discussions that we were having to and from Warhammer World events, but also I think at that point we were all regularly chatting on a weekly-ish basis anyway about the current weekly Warhammer news, releases, and things like that. So it always felt like a kind of logical conclusion to why don't we put that on a recording for other people to listen to?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? We got to a place where we realized that we were enjoying speaking with each other over the phone about this stuff. And as friends, we've always been relatively scattered in our locations. So we always had a lot of phone conversations where we would catch up and talk about things. And again, it was, much like what we said, I think, in even episode 1, where we were basically saying, we do this anyway. We might as well do it and see if people enjoy it. And seemingly that's the case, because obviously we've gone on to, create 100 episodes and to have a relatively strong following. Not that that's ever been important to us, right? And nor is it important to us now. I think, obviously we love the fact that there are people out there that really enjoy the show, and that means a lot to us. But I don't think we ever set out with any aspiration, and nor do I believe that we have any aspirations of, this being any more than a chance for us to get together and have a chat and share our thoughts and feelings on 40k related topics, right? Like, we never had any mad, grandiose plans of like, a year of this, and then before you know it, Games Workshop will be giving us everything for free, and we'll be on Easy Street. We'll be like Lawrence on Tabletop Tactics, and everyone will really care what we say. I mean, that hasn't happened, and I think it's kind of a good thing. I worry a lot about us getting too big. Like, that's always been something that's, gave me relative anxiety attacks at times. It's like, I like existing in this kind of...
You don't want to be recognised in the streets.
No, although that has happened once. Although, admittedly, that was a very specific street on a very specific occasion. It was during a 40k gaming event, walking to and from a gaming hall. So, in that instance, I guess. But it did occur on the street, Phil. So I'm gonna take it.
Fair enough.
It has happened. But no, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I mean, what was your intentions for the pod from the outset? You and I are pretty well aligned on all this stuff, right? We never really wanted to do anything more than just make something that almost for ourselves, really. And I think that's been the core of it. It's always just been something that it's easy to do it because it's fun, I think, is the core of it, And I don't think we have to massively alter our perspectives or tailor our content in any way, because it's just fun to do. I think
fun for you, a chore for me. No, it's I think
I'd hate to think that, Phil, the fact that this is the first time you're going to turn around to me and say, no, I hate it, Dan, I don't understand why you keep dragging
100 episodes, I'm still here. God,
I know.
Who knew I'd last that long? I'm surprised I haven't.
Is it like one of these like penance? Not penance. Like penance. Are you paying a price for something evil you once did?
Am I rolling a big stone up a hill eternally?
Yes,
it does feel like that since we've gone weekly, I have to say. But to be fair, all it really has done is it sort of just formalized something we were doing already. If we weren't doing the podcast, would we still be chatting every week about 40k? Probably, yeah. I mean, I think that still pretty much happens. Even when we do the podcast, that we still have phone calls and sort of do an unrecorded edit of not what we really think, because that would be a bit incorrect, but we still have like these proverbial chats that percolate around before we record or after we've recorded, in between the sessions, about stuff that sometimes we don't even get a chance to record, just because it's either not relevant or we've just got more important things to talk about, like a Grey Knight's Codex review. Yay!
Yay!
So yeah, I think overall we'd still be doing something similar if we weren't doing it on a podcast format. And as you said, yeah, we never really had any real grand ambitions that it would get super popular or monetize it in any way, or I don't know, the usual things. So we've just kind of plodded along for 3 years now, we've worked out. And we've kind of just kept it sort of steady, tried not to rock the boat too much, and just carry on. I think trying to just be consistent in terms of when we record and when we put out episodes, and sort of our format. I mean, it has evolved ever so slightly over the time. We did start off with a Joe, and now we don't have a Joe. Did we always have transitional noises? I think maybe not for the first few episodes.
I think always there was this aspiration to add some transitional noises for production purposes, but I think initially we did what everyone else did, which is just at the time it felt like everyone else was doing, which is taking like sound effects from Dawn of War and just sprinkling those into in between the segments, so the build routine 721, I think it's 721, 731. Anyway, whatever the servitor says, we'd have that between segments. But again, it was one of those weird things that, I mean, even like the transitional noise was a really beautiful moment, because I mean, as this isn't going to come as a surprise to anyone that listens to us on a regular basis, but we never really have any plan or structure to what we're doing. We agreed early doors that we would restrain our language, in the sense that we would elect not to swear, which we felt was important, because I think the hobby is a hobby which is enjoyed by a broad and diverse audience, and we want to support that, and we want to be accessible, and we feel like we have enough of a grasp of the of the language, and we communicate well enough that we can get our points across and be entertaining without effing and jeffing, as they say every 5 seconds. And we have debated that, because natively when speaking off the podcast, I probably swear more than I should do. So in a way, it's quite refreshing to know that I cannot do it for a sustained period of time, which potentially speaks very low of the fact that I've got such a blue vocabulary under normal circumstances, I guess. But I always remember when we got Tokon for the Krieg episode, which I was listening to today, in fact, as I was going back through and listening to old episodes. I remember the bits in between, or the bits when we got him on, and he was like, Dan, I'm really surprised how much you actually swear in real life. And I'm like, oh, I actually feel quite bad about that, actually. Something I need to improve upon. And again, I'm conscious of when I say that sort of stuff, because it maybe gives the impression like I'm playing a character or not being genuine when I do this pod. That is not the case. But ultimately it's interesting to do it that way. But that was literally like the only thing we agreed upon from the outset, is we need to make sure that isn't a factor, and then everything else is us just talking. And we slip up on occasion, as is inevitable. I try and catch it all in the editing process, but things change. But I think when we started, I think the transitional noise, to go back to your point, it didn't come from anything because there never was really a plan. And we just got to the end of a segment, and I was like, oh, I guess we've got to move on. I mean, I'd actually love to go back and try and discover when I actually first introduced the concept, or whether there was a debate around it. I don't remember. This is one of those things that sort of lost the time.
I
Did it happen
wouldn't
organically?
I wouldn't be surprised if you just did it off the cuff, and it's sort of just a low budget editing technique whereby doing it in camera or in microphone in this case means you don't need to add it afterwards in post. So
Yes,
in a way, it's the analog hipster version of podcast recording.
I like it though, and I like how much it resonates with certain listeners. And it embarrasses me massively when I'm out in the world and I meet people and they ask me to do a transitional noise.
That hasn't happened. Sure.
It has happened. It has happened. I mean, the most recent example was when we started going down and playing games with Rapid Fire Wargaming. And they're like, "Go on, Dan, do the transitional noise." Now, admittedly, that's more of a kind of, we're doing a content piece or whatever. But no, people have asked, jokingly in conversations, like, "Give us a transitional noise then, Dan." Oh man, I'm not your performing creature.
But you are.
But I am. That's the sad reality of it all, isn't it? I mean, that's been one of the most heartwarming things about it, though, mate. Is like, and I know you were used to this, or you are more used to this than I was, because you obviously were doing the Beyond the Tabletop stuff. I always remembered going to like Warhammer World with Phil, and like all the staff knowing who he was, or like people being like, "Oh man, I saw your thing on Instagram," and all the rest of it. So I was always sort of used to being like Phil's carry-on luggage, as it were, whenever we went places or did events and stuff. It's like, "Hey, I'm Dan. Nice to meet you." It's like, move aside, you. And to be fair, that still sort of happens. But, I get my own little moments of appreciation. But again, I mean, if it didn't happen, it wouldn't matter. I think that's the weird part of it, is that, I love the audience we have. I love the rapport that we have with them. I love the fact that through this podcast, I've been able to make new friends. It's massively important. It's been, the thing for me with the podcast, and I've said it already at different points, but the reason why I wanted to do this was because of where I was mentally at that time. I was not in a good place. I was not happy. I didn't have anything of my own. I just worked and existed. And this has given me something that is more than myself in that sense. And it gives me, without wanting to sound overly dramatic, it gives me a nice sort of sense of purpose, in so much as I'm always working on this. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always, contributing to it. And, it's not like I've become a PewDiePie or some massive influencer with a huge following. But as I keep saying, that's not the point. It's not about, becoming this big, all-important individual. It's about being part of the community. And that's the thing that I've always really engaged with 40K. Is I love the community. I love the gaming. I love the narrative, the world. So being able to just give something back to that has been really important for me. So it's been great. I mean, without wanting to wax lyrical too much about it, it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. And even with these weekly formats, as you said, Phil, because I genuinely am struggling every now and again with the weekly formats, especially with the codexes, because they are hard work. When you get around to yet another codex review and you're like, "Oh Lord."
Yeah, I mean, to let people peek behind the curtain, a normal podcast will take an evening to record, normally till relatively late into the early hours of the morning. Not too much though, just a little bit, just enough to get the podcast out. Sometimes we need to record like an extra segment or something if we've forgotten something, or we need to just because we're tired at the end, we roll it on to the next day.
Or we forgot to hit record.
Oh yeah, or well, not
Those are the best.
not necessarily forgot to hit record, although I think that maybe happened once or twice. But there has been times when the podcast recording software that we have has like crashed. One of us has dropped out, and then that person's recording has just not been saved. So we've sort of then had to redo like an hour or so's segment. But the Codex ones, I mean, the longest one I think was it Orcs maybe, where we did a day together in the evening just chatting through it. Then we did a day recording just the Codex segment, and then we did another day, I say day, I mean evening, doing like the intro, outro, community questions section, which is why those episodes tend to get quite bloated and long, because actually they're recorded over several days. So they're a bit tiresome to do, and you've got to do a lot of prep work in terms of reading the Codex. I quite like sometimes read other like blogs and watch other people's reviews of it as well, just to get their opinions as well, that I can percolate in my mind to help as I'm going through it as well. So yeah, there's a reasonable bit of work involved in doing those Codex ones. So when we get a freebie episode, it's great.
Yeah, I know. I am really excited about the fact that there are limited Codex releases for 40k in the immediate future, because obviously we got Thousand Suns next episode, which I'm really excited about because I really dig the Thousand Suns, and I was so confident I was going to win the Thousand Suns Grey Knight off. I started getting into the Thousand Suns and reading up on them, and then obviously I found out I lost, and I was like, oh, I got to learn Grey Knights in a day. I've got to shift momentum here, which was it was interesting, but to your point, Phil, though, it is work, right? And obviously it has strains on like all sorts of stuff, making the time with regards to like work, but then also making time with regards to like partners and all of that stuff. Yeah. It's super interesting because again, I have to turn around to the missus and be like, right, well, I'd love to spend the evening with you, but I'm off again to do some podcasting. And when it's one night a week, that's something, but when it's like 3 nights a week, it's very much like
I guess, to be fair, like when we were doing fortnightly, we still recorded every week. We still did one night a week, and that's why the episodes were like 5-6 hours long, because we just recorded every week but stitched them together. And then when Joe left, I think that was when we decided, let's try the weekly format out, because we record weekly anyway, so let's just put that section out. So hopefully whatever section we're recording is a bit more relevant, because sometimes when we did fortnightly, you would by the time the episode came out, it was something that was like 3 weeks old, so it's felt sometimes like, oh, is this a bit redundant when we do something like that. Just going back to the codexes as well, I guess that's the only thing. It's like we would discuss most things anyway. In terms of, if we weren't doing a podcast, we would just chit chat about the Warhammer community news and stuff like that. Whereas the codexes is like, I wouldn't be buying every codex or reading them in depth. I would see what Warhammer community said about it, and then I would put it to the back of my mind until I came across it on the tabletop, and then I'd be like, oh, cool, what does that do? And I wouldn't really be as engaged in the codexes, whereas I know you would be buying them and reading them anyway, because that's how you become the tactical genius that you are.
I think if it wasn't for the podcast, though, I definitely would have stopped doing that in 9th edition. 9th edition has really tested me in terms of its content drops, but also the way that it produces content. I think this is the first edition where I have resigned myself to the fact that I can't know everything, because there's too much to know. But obviously, because of the podcast, I continue to buy the books and I continue to read them and understand them. But again, it's like, as we've said on a few occasions, it's like an exam, right? I know it for that week, but then I very quickly forget it. And it's difficult for me to retain a lot of this stuff because it's really heavy duty. Like, when you think about the fact that it takes us so long to review the books, it's because there's so much to them. And we're skipping massive chunks, like we don't go through every single unit. We very rarely go through all the relics. We next to never talk about all the stratagems,
and we never do.
We don't
Crusades.
Crusade.
I shed a tear that we don't do Crusade, because honestly, every time I flick through it, and I don't even read the Crusade often, but I do have a little skim through it, and it always looks like some of the most interesting stuff.
Oh
out of the
yeah,
book.
yeah. They're throwing some good stuff around. My problem is with Crusade, it's like a hat on a hat, as I say a lot, and that's the thing. It's like it's too much, man. I am struggling with Ninth. Ninth is the edition that I just accept that the way I feel like Games Workshop wants you to play it or wants you to approach it is pick something and stick to it. Don't like the idea of dabbling is absolutely gone. I think you can potentially mix and match within certain supplement factions. So Space Marines, I think you can dabble with different flavors of Space Marines due to supplements. But even those are complicated. I mean, you think about all the extra layers. A Blood Angel army has an above and beyond a Dark Angel army. I mean, the Dark Angels have got 3 super doctrines. They've got a different super doctrine for every doctrine. It's like, oh my lord. And then they got Deathwing rules, Raven Wing rules, their own psychic powers. It's like, man alive. It's so much to get your head around.
I think it would be fine to dabble if you weren't a competitive player. If you were just taking it casual, I think you would just strip out a lot of the rules, or you just would be playing it and not care that you're not using the most optimized stratagems, and you're just having fun with your little corner of the rule book and not necessarily worrying about all of it. But you are right. I think it's quite daunting for players to see the sheer amount of rules in there. But at the same time, it's also quite exciting that there is a lot to get into. So if you are just one faction player, it feels like there's probably enough in there to keep you going for longer than you would in previous codexes.
And I agree with that. And I think that's the thing. And that's one of the other things I feel when I'm doing the Codex content is I feel the pressure of the fans of those books to do them justice. You know, I don't want to do less of a job for the Grey Knights than I did for the Orcs, than I did for the Dark Angels, so on and so forth. But yeah, anyway, look, I mean, you know, grumbling about that side of things, I think, you know, again, just getting back to the root of it, you know, we started the pod because we talk about this stuff all the time. We felt like we had good, interesting, different opinions. I suppose our USP, or what we believed to be our USP, is the fact that we're different you know, elements of the hobby that come together through a combined kind of shared passion and enthusiasm. So the original idea is that I was the competitive try-hard guy, you were the, you know, super fluffy painter, modeler person, and Joe was the hobby butterfly, right? Like Joe was the guy that could never sit still and was always moving from places, had aspirations towards competitive, wanted to be a great painter, and seemingly always kind of existed somewhere in the middle ground as a result of that. He could never kind of pick a lane.
Yeah, I guess he was someone that probably dabbled in most of the armies to a lesser extent, because you were predominantly like an Elder player. I was, when we started, just a Krieg player with no intentions of ever really playing anything else, although I'd always look at a Codex here and there, and I've said it before, I'd buy a Codex. I think I had a couple of 7th and 8th edition codexes, but never really like started anything. Whereas Joe was, you know, in the space of a year would have at least 4 or 5 armies that he would blow through. He would do a 2,000 point army, play it for 2-3 months, and then basically ditch it for something else. So in a way, we kind of covered lots of armies just because of him. Whereas the two of us on our own, probably a bit more specialist in terms of the armies that we collect, although I guess is a bit more varied now because I'm doing Minotaurs, Thunder Warriors, Inquisition, as well as my Krieg. You've got most of Joe's old armies anyway, so you've collected them.
True. That is true. I think that's the thing, though. I think, you know, I really liked what it was when it was the 3 of us. And to talk about Joe leaving, because I think that was an important milestone for the pod as well. I was really anxious about what it would be without Joe. Not because I didn't think we could do it without him, but I didn't necessarily know if we could maintain the spirit of the pod, right? I felt like, you know, because Joe is innately very funny. He's a really good character to bounce stuff off of. and he's very anarchic in his nature. Like he loves throwing weird stuff into the mix.
Like that famous or infamous, like all flamer army for guard when we were going through the Psychic Awakening book. He was convinced the Burner Boys or something that was going to be really good.
And he'd go off on these weird tangents where he'd come up with interesting little anecdotes about how he wanted to sneak into your home and steal your skin. You remember that, Phil?
I do, yeah. And he'd always give us little anecdotes about his growing up as a child and how badly parented he was. Dropped off at Games Workshop, left to his own devices as a small wee kid.
He had a lot of variables in that sense, based on what he says. But and it was sad when he had to leave the pod. It's sort of sadder still that we couldn't get him back as well to do any kind of contributions to episode 100. Unfortunately, he is, contractually bound within his current employment to be unable to participate today. But obviously, we do still really, really like Joe, and we do still really appreciate what he did for the podcast. And we really wish he could have been here to reflect on it with us. But no, I genuinely felt like when we were losing Joe, it might have massively changed things. But actually, in a way, I think like what we've gone on to become, and I don't mean to kind of, belittle or to sort of diminish Joe's contributions. I think they were immense. Well, indeed, but I think they were immensely valuable. But I think in a way, I do prefer the 2-person format. I think, every time we've ever tried doing the 3-person format with someone else who isn't Joe, it hasn't worked, or hasn't worked as well as I'd like it to. And even with Joe, I think Joe kind of pushed you into the background more, because me and him would have a bit of a back and forth, certainly in some of like the Codex reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
I think early doors, there was a lot of you being quite quiet. And I think that's been the best thing, mate, is the fact that you've absolutely kind of stepped up and filled that void in a big way. And I think, ultimately, I think because of you, the pod is able to still work, because I think without you, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's easy for me to sit here and go like, oh, I'm great and brilliant and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and it's a collaboration. And I think it's the strength of the friendship and the strength of the relationship in general that makes the whole thing work. Because I think if you and I genuinely didn't get along, or we were just doing it for some kind of cynical, clickbaity, I'm only here to pursue my own business interest type deal, I think that probably wouldn't necessarily work as well as it does. And I think that's the thing. I think it does work well. I think anyway. Yeah. I don't know.
It's reminded me of when Joe was here. I could quite easily just put myself on mute and do some hobbying while you two were chatting away about some rules or some codex of some sort. And I would chip in occasionally, but it was like a great evening where I could get some proper hobbying done. Whereas now that can't happen, because you've got to be on it a lot more, so to speak. It's like I basically lose a day a week of non-hobbying, which, if that's like 4 hours in a week, I mean, that adds up to a lot of hours that I'm not hobbying anymore, as much as I used to be anyway.
Well, you could look at this as an extension of your hobby, though, right? This is part of the hobby for you now, right?
Yes, but it is also pushing a boulder up a hill. It's, I'm quite, as I've pains to say, quite a slow painter and hobbyist. So I need as much time as I can humanly get to do those activities. So any activity that isn't doing that, not to say it's not hobbying, because obviously it is a form of hobbying, but it's not I don't want to say it's not my preferred method of hobbying. It's like I really enjoy my painting and, kit bashing and what have you. This is an extension of my hobbying, but it's not that more practical side of the hobbying, if that makes sense. This is content creating hobbying, I guess. It's like when I do videos for Beyond the Tabletop, it's like they're laborious to put out, which is why I do like one every few months at this current rate, because I just don't get the time to do it, because it's quite time consuming. So in a way, I'm glad I can still contribute to the community and let you do with all the editing, and I can just be a participant, basically.
No, of course, mate. I think, but no, I genuinely think, I think our perspective is one that is slightly unique. I think the thing that was really interesting for me early doors as well, when we started doing the podcast, and again, this is an arrogant statement, but I'll make it all the same. I do think we started a trend with this style of podcasting, because I think before we started doing it, and again, maybe I acknowledge, right? Maybe I just didn't know about the guys that were doing it before we were. And obviously you become more aware once you start doing it. But I do feel like there were a lot of other pods that have kind of come into existence that have been inspired by what we do, and have ultimately heard the fact that, people are getting an audience or getting recognition for just chatting between their mates and stuff.
Yeah,
I think the difference...
I was going to say, I can't tell if it was just a kind of like an osmosis wave that everyone collectively kind of came up with that sort of idea around the same sort of time, and we just happened to maybe be a bit more ahead of the curve. Or, as I think you've said it before, people have heard our podcast and basically gone like, oh, anyone can do that. It's just two or three people chatting rubbish with a really badly recorded like Skype recording. Oh, I can do that as well. And I think maybe in a way it's like that. If it has inspired people, it's probably more through that, in terms of it's the ease of the actual podcast creation. And I think it's just a general trend, not even just within 40k. You could throw a rock in a pub and you'll hit a guy with a podcast, basically.
Yeah. I think that was a collective term for middle-aged white men, wasn't it? A podcast of white men.
Yeah, that would sound about right.
Yeah, but I tell you what, though, right? It's like, I think, the point of difference always comes back to the dedication that it takes to stick to this and to do it regularly. And I'm not really sure what drives that. I genuinely have had moments where the last thing I want to do on Friday night is put this thing together. The worst I ever did was I went to bed and went, you know what? There's not going to be a podcast tomorrow. I'll do it in the morning. And I remember I couldn't sleep properly. I woke up at 3 a.m. and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I got up and I finished it and I uploaded it. And it was there at 8 o'clock in the morning Saturday, as it is every week at the moment anyway.
And well done. That is commitment.
Yeah, mate. But and I think that was relatively early doors, because I had a few little funny moments early doors where I was very much like, the rest of them don't know what it's like. I'm the only one here dealing with this. It's Friday night and they're all having a good time, and I'm sat here doing this. And I think that's it becomes a relatively easy trap to fall into. And I think that is where a lot of podcasts struggle. And the advice I'd give to anyone who genuinely has aspirations of doing this kind of stuff is that, don't kid yourself that it's not hard work, because it really is. I mean, it's not back-breaking work. I'm not, it's not hard work in a real sense, but it's the dedication. You gotta make time for it, and you gotta make it work, and that's hard. Not the doing of it. This recording bit is easy, but when I have to write the description, I'll tell you the thing I hate is the tags and the timestamps, because it's almost like the tedious bit at the end where I'm like, oh God. And the worst bit is the summary that you have to write for, I think it only appears on like iTunes, like the episode summaries. And some of the time, and I'm sure some of our listeners will have observed this, some of the summaries I've written are just awful. I'm just literally, it's episode 96. It's too late. I'm sorry. It's about Tau or whatever. Cheers.
Yeah. See, I'm quite happy to actually do those, because I quite enjoy that kind of element of, I'm a web designer sort of by trade, so writing interesting bits of text, while not necessarily, I'm no editor, but I can do a good job at it, is all I'm saying. So if you need me to do that, I'll do that for you, Dan. I'll take that off you.
It's brilliant, isn't it? That now it's just becoming a kind of, we're getting into more of a kind of, behind the scenes kind of shop talk debate where Phil's now taking on responsibilities. But no, because it's that thing. I don't mind doing it normally. It's just sometimes you look at it, and that's all it is, right? It's just like, and I'm not saying that to kind of be like, oh, woe is me, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying it to give people an idea of the challenges and why I think a few of the people that were starting up podcasts at the same time we were, fell off, and why they stopped doing it, and or why they do it more sporadically, or why, whatever, because it is a lot of effort. And
I think it would be harder to be a faction specific podcast. I know, Paulie does Real Space Raiders. Yeah. I get the impression from those guys that there is another Drakari podcast out there, and that's in addition to, I guess, is it Scarredcast? He does his own. It's not quite podcast, but he is a faction-specific kind of YouTuber.
I think he's diversified. But,
and there are others. I'm sure there's a guard one out there and a couple of. But doing content just for that one faction must be so much harder. And I guess that is why they'd be less infrequent, because beyond the Codex, or maybe an infrequent model release, you don't really have a lot of new stuff to talk about. You can try and kind of lean into the meta competitive side and go, oh, this is the new combo that we found, or what we did quite early on was we're going to events. Here's us talking about our army list, or here's us talking about how we did events. And it'll be interesting because obviously I think, last year or so, we haven't really done that as part of the podcast because there just hasn't been events to go to. It'll be interesting when we do start going back to Warhammer World, for example, if we start including that as a segment again, if listeners would be interested, because it's not really something we've done more recently.
Yeah. I think going back to year one of Lookout Sir, like year one was very much a case of here's Dan, Phil, and Joe. And this trio essentially is going to talk about hobby related things. I think the first thing we talked about was the Imperial Knights Codex, but also I think it was the 40k doubles events that we were building up towards. And I think what was always really interesting about Lookout Sir early doors was that, yes, there was the kind of three of us, but then there was also Tim, and then there was Richie as well, and it kind of was like an ensemble.
I want it to be ensemble. That sounds good.
Ensemble. We're going to go with ensemble. That's what I'm going to say. I don't know if that's how I'm supposed to say it.
Ensemble is
ensemble.
Correct,
that'll
but
do.
I mean, now we occasionally call Richard and Tim the irregular regulars or regular regulars, but now
irregular regulars.
Now they're the ensembles.
They are the ensembles. Yes. Anyway, the point is that it was like Lookout Sir was kind of like a group thing, and that's always kind of been at the core of it. But obviously, as it's developed with the lockdown, it's been difficult to incorporate them into it more regularly because we just haven't been doing those group activities. But I always used to love that about it. It was like an extension of our hobby group. It was a chance to get together, and it was sort of an expansive thing. And we would loop Tim in, we would loop Richie in. But it was interesting, and I think that's something I would like to dive into more in as events and things start opening up again. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Year one of the podcast was news, content around 40k, and then our own personal experiences with what we were doing in events. And that was it for the first year. And I can't pretend that it probably was like mad popular. I think a lot of people did enjoy that. But I don't necessarily feel like it was something that, obviously resonated as well as obviously what we're doing now, although maybe that's just repetition. Maybe we're just building that audience as we go forwards. Obviously, it's difficult to look at year one and then year three in isolation of each other. I think, the two, there is a relativity to the two of them, but irrespective, I enjoyed what we were doing early doors, and I felt like it was a really great extension of the hobby, or my hobby. And it was great to share that with you guys and do that stuff. But yeah, it was a fun. And early doors, to give you some technical insights, early doors, we used to So basically, when we started, I had, and to be fair, I still don't have any idea. I didn't know how you get a podcast online, right? Like the beginnings of this stuff is maddening. Like I knew I needed a microphone and I needed a way to record Phil and Joe. And I was like, how does one do this? Like, how does this happen? And I remember going online and being like, right, I need to figure this out. And I ended up using, so I got my Blue Yeti microphone that I'm still using to this day. And I basically got XSplit, which is like a live streaming tool, like a live streaming software piece. And what was good about XSplit was I could record my microphone inputs as well as recording my PC's outputs, which is why essentially when we recorded the podcast initially, we just had one mono feed audio bit that I couldn't really muck around with in any real way because I didn't have individual audio. It was all just one block. And I used to video myself as we do it. And the way that I would go through the editing process is if anything went wrong, I'd put my hand up in the air and wave at myself to be able to then go through the video and then edit it. And then in terms of editing the podcast, I would use a piece of software called Filmora, which is a film editing software piece, not even film, just a movie editing piece of software, which had really rudimentary audio editing capabilities back then. And this used to just be how I put it together. And I was like, cool, I now have an MP3. Where does that go? And we just ended up with Buzzsprout, which is where we have still resided to this day. But yeah, it's been a process, right? Like going from that to now where I think our audio quality has improved and all the rest of it. Spoilers, I am still using Filmora to edit this thing, but their audio suite has improved dramatically, which has been fantastic.
But I mean, you giving the technical descriptions, that is sort of explains why those early episodes, me and Joe sounded like we were talking down a tunnel because we were basically being recorded over Skype. Whereas Dan's audio was basically direct from his mic into his computer. So he always sounded crystal clear. We always sounded quite muddy in comparison.
Even then, though, I had some serious issues with like echoes, and also like other things that I hadn't perfected around having too much like gain and peaking a lot. I still hear that with a lot of our competition, by the way. Like when I say competition's a rude word for them, really. I should just say with other podcasts. With other podcasts, you do listen to them and you're like, wow, that audio. Not pretending that ours is beautiful by any stretch of the imagination, but I have worked hard to get better at putting this stuff together. And I do think that's been reflected in the last year. And I do think that's actually probably a reason why we've also continued to succeed, is because people can listen to us and not think, what is this horrible mess? I'm going away now.
Yeah, I'm sure that does help. Having good audio is always more important than good visuals. I think obviously podcast it doesn't make a difference, but if you're on YouTube, having poor quality audio would be way more annoying than poor quality video, I think.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so yeah, let's try and go back through the year that the 3 years that was Lookout Sir, the 99 episodes that came before this, and try and pick out some interesting landmark moments. So I suppose for me, the first of the landmark moments I'll talk about was our first guest, good old Scary back in the day. And I think that was a really interesting test for us because we got very excited by the prospect of having someone on who was legitimate. And it was all part of the learning process because Scary essentially reached out to us and was like, I like the show, which is super awesome for him to say. And he was curious whether he could come on. And at the time, we got quite starstruck. Not starstruck so much, but we just got excited about the possibilities. I mean, despite the fact that we never really wanted this to be a big thing, we got excited about the idea of having someone on who had an audience and who could expand or extend our reach, I suppose. So getting him on was a really interesting learning for me, because what I realized is in that process is, one, I'm a terrible interviewer. Like, if I don't know you already, it's awful. like, you know, and again, the way that we do this show didn't lend itself at all to having guests on, because having guests on is a really weird thing to do, because unless you know that person, you kind of have to make the episode all about them. And that's why I've really shied away from it in recent years, because I just don't think it makes good content. I think Scary was great. I think it was fantastic to have him on. I think, you know, I appreciate him giving us his time and all the rest of it. But I thought it was a bad episode. And that started to inform my thinking going forward. So that was a really important landmark for me with the podcast. And I think that's been further refined with future guests that we got. Winters, obviously, was amazing to get on. Someone that I followed and watched the content of for years. Someone who obviously is a pillar within the gaming community, and again, someone who we really appreciated having on the show, but again, struggled really to get into a rhythm. I think Winters, because he's obviously British and has similar kind of sensibilities to us, I think, you know, it was slightly easier, but I think it still was a bit, a bit different. And then I think the last one we had on was Valric. And Valric was fine. I mean, I knew Valric because we'd just been chatting, and me and him got on well when chatting one-to-one. So I thought I'd get him on the pod. But again, I can't lie. It was a relatively cynical thing that I did. I was like, oh, you know, me and Valric are getting on. I'm having a nice chat with him. I'll get him on the pod. That'll boost the numbers. It is what it is, right? So I think the guest thing's been an interesting thing for me. But moving forwards, I think me and Phil have come to a point where we're like, guests, it's not our bag. Unless, of course, we really sort of know them and get on with them. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think we both come to the conclusion that just getting people on for the sake of it isn't us. And I know there's lots of pods out there that do that, and they're very successful because of it. But it's just not for me. And I believe I can say it's not for Phil either, right?
Yeah, I just think it sort of breaks the flow. And I think sort of where we're at now, especially now Joe's left, it's like the 2-person format just works really well. Adding in a third person is just going to break that. And as you said, and this isn't the reason why we don't do it, but yeah, the impression that you will think you will get lots of new listeners from people coming onto your show, that's just not true. That just doesn't happen. Like, I think every time we've had a guest, our numbers have always stayed the same. Like, they don't bring their audience
often
with them.
Often they're the lowest numbers we've ever done.
Yeah, and it is great to speak to some of those people, like having Winters on, and that was almost like sort of in-kind gesture, because both myself and Joe had played Winters on his channel, so it was like, oh, come on. And yeah, with Valric, we'd both been chatting to him sort of separately, really, because you were just chatting to him randomly. He was buying some of my kits that I do on my store, so we had a bit of an exchange through that. So it just seemed like a nice, gesture, like, oh, do you want to come on? But overall, I think after doing that, we've had other people ask to come on, and we've always just said no, because it just doesn't really seem to work, or it doesn't really fit in to the format that we now have. One thing that reminded me, though, with Scary, he took part as a guest on the end of the show quiz, and annoyingly won. But that just really draws to sort of my notable thing of the podcast, which was Richie being the quiz master and us doing the end of the show quiz, which is it's occasionally on the show now. It used to be a lot more regular at one point. But yeah, I think it's nice that we do it from time to time.
I mean, we used to do and have been known to do a lot more segments in the past. And I think while we're reviewing what we're going to be doing in 2022, I think that might be an aspiration of mine to try and bring those things back. It's not something we've massively focused on in 2021 as me and Phil kind of find our feet as a gruesome twosome. I loved the introduction of the quiz. I loved the buzzer segment. I thought it was amazing. And in a way that the quiz gave birth to the thing that I am most proud of with the Lookout Sir 40K podcast, which was the Big Fat Quiz of the Year 2019. And I'm so sad that we weren't able to make the Big Fat Quiz of the Year 2020 happen. And I am keen to make Big Fat Quiz of the Year 2022 a reality. Not 2022, sorry, 2021 a reality.
Obviously, we need to preface it as Big Fat 40K Quiz of the Year, because Big Fat Quiz of the Year is something else. Although I do think in hindsight, we should have probably gone with the end of the year quiz, because we always call it end of a show quiz. So end of the year quiz seems more fitting, and probably would, mean people wouldn't accidentally stumble across it when they're looking for a Big Fat Quiz of the Year, going, what's this?
Yeah, we got a lot of dislikes on that because obviously a lot of people clicked on it thinking that it was something to do with Channel 4's Big Fat Quiz of the Year, because we basically ripped off the sign and we basically did a thumbnail that sort of looked like it. And I think I even used Big Fat Quiz of the Year in like the keywords in the tags. So it probably, didn't do us any favors on that. But even though the audio quality was shocking in that quiz, the fact that we pulled that together, because I remember saying to you guys, like, I want us to do this. And you were like, yeah, all right, Dan, pull the other leg. I went, no, I reckon we could do it. And I think we got to that point where we got to like November or whatever it was. And I was like, no, I'm actually going to make it happen. And I kind of willed it into existence. And obviously, it cost a little bit of money. And obviously we had to beg, borrow and steal in terms of getting like the venue and putting it all together. But I was really proud of it, man. I mean, the editing process, I was dedicated towards getting this thing out Christmas Day. Typically me and my wife go out Christmas Eve and see the family and do things. Not Christmas 2019. Christmas 2019, I was up till 3 a.m.
Mad.
editing this. And I think in like a 72-hour period, I'd spent like 50 hours editing.
Yeah, because I remember saying to you, don't worry about doing it for Christmas. No one's going to watch it on Christmas Day. Everyone's with family. Yeah. Just do it in between Christmas and New Year's, and that'll be a good thing. But you were very committed to the Christmas Day release.
Yes, yeah. But hopefully if we do march forwards with end of the year quiz, as we might end up calling it, 2021, I guess maybe we'll look to film it in November. You know what, Phil, just thinking about it, saying out loud, the RFW guys are obviously hosting a gaming event in that village hall in Kent on the 27th of November. Maybe out of left field, maybe I could use that venue in the evening and extend it to the quiz, and then maybe we could bring have a studio audience.
I mean, possibly. I would have, if you were going to say the following Sunday, that would make more sense in terms of time wise. I like how you're committing to this weird live studio audience thing, but okay.
Well, I just think it'd be lovely for people. I think if anyone wants to come along, I think it'd be a fun thing. It'd be like going out to a Christmas panto. They can come watch.
I guess to me, it's like not. Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather.
I know you hate it. You don't want it.
It's like sort of like stage fright. I guess it's just when it's just the guys or us lot all together. It's a lot more low stakes. You can mess it up, and we can re-record bits. Not that we do that on the podcast particularly.
Not anymore. We're pros now.
Now but the live stream, the Christmas end of the show quiz was super fun day. It was a lot of hard work, a bit tiring. It was actually really jolly, sort of fun day, and it was also our only excuse to sort of all hang out for Christmas and do like kind of Christmas dinners, because I think that was the year did we go up to Warhammer World afterwards, like a few weeks
No,
later?
oh no, yeah, we went to Warhammer World
Like in between
after Christmas 2019.
Yeah, because I'm sometimes it's the only chance we can actually all hang out and stuff, so it's always quite good when we can do that. Trying to then do that in front of people means it's got to be done in a timely manner. You've got to be really,
and it has to be a bit more professional.
It's like, I think we'd need practice if we were going to do that. That's all I'm saying.
There's no better practice than just doing it, though, mate. That's the thing, just throwing it out there. Just
if you say so.
Hey, sometimes you just got to sink or swim.
As with most of the podcast, if you make it happen, I'll turn up and do my bit.
Yeah, I know, mate. I know how this stuff goes. But no, the quiz, obviously a fantastic highlight of the pod up to this point. Another thing that I want to highlight is the Joe show, the infamous 14th episode, the Joe show. This was a real highlight for me because I think early doors in the podcast, we each dabbled with introducing segments. We each dabbled with like spreading out the responsibility. It was I'll do this intro, Phil does the next intro, Joe does the next one. But we'd gotten into a rhythm where it seemed most natural for me to kind of host.
Dan had bullied himself into the top spot, basically, and me and Joe were like, yeah, okay.
I mean, again, I'd love to hear more about your perspective on that, as it were. Do you ever feel now that you want to have a go at being the kind of like the vehicle that drives this content, or how do you want to do this?
I'm quite happy to be the backseat driver. I don't need the fame and glory.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm getting fame and glory, my friend. I think we share that equally, but I think but the Joe show is an interesting milestone because we gave Joe the opportunity. We were like, you know what, let's, let Joe have a stab at it. And it was a wonderful thing because I love it because...
Is it car crash television?
Well, the thing is, I mean, I make it sound like it was awful. It was far from it. I mean, but I think the thing is like, I think it did a good job of affirming why people had fallen into their roles, as it were. And I think at that point it was a chance to kind of like test the status quo and understand how this, this relationship was working, or this, content production process was working. And I think the Joe show was a really interesting experiment. I think it was great though, because I think it was good to give Joe a chance to kind of like, try that and see if, because, obviously had it been amazing, had it been great, we would have, very comfortably kept doing it. But I think as we discovered, it didn't quite work as well as maybe Joe had hoped at the time or whatever. But I still really love it as a little experiment. And I think, again, it sort of spoke to him as a kind of character. It was, it's kind of like in a cartoon series where, I don't know, where in like Pinky and the Brain, they do an episode about Pinky. Or Pinky has his own episode. That was kind of like what it was. Without being too unfair to our good friend Joseph. But no, it was interesting. It was an interesting experiment for sure. And something that went well. Anything else you want to highlight, Phil, at this stage? Any other bits that you feel like were worthy of note?
Obviously, we've done quite a few Krieg episodes. They're the equivalent, I feel, of the Phil show, while not being the Phil show.
Well, and I think actually a point that I can potentially sieve out of that is our community engagement and our involvement with our listeners, because that was a great example, because we had Toke come on, and Toke has been a long-time listener to the show, someone who has engaged with it and has always been active in our community. And as a result, we felt it like, there was no one better to come on and join us and talk about Krieg, him being an active Krieg player and everything that came along with that. And that was really exciting because I think, that was a really great example of getting people in that, felt native to our ecosystem or to our environment. And again, I think actually, if I can expand on that even further, it goes back to the point I was making much earlier, which is the fact that it's awesome that we've been able to make connections with people and, get to know people and share conversations with people that enjoy our show. And I know it's super weird because I listen to a lot of content that obviously other people produce, and I have an affinity with those content creators. And it's weird when you listen to this stuff every week because you gain a rapport with those people. You start to feel like you kind of know them, even though you don't know them. But I think what's always lovely for me is that we always have these moments where we can actually get to know directly our listeners. And that's something I really enjoy. That's something I like a lot, and something that I think has contributed to the ongoing success of
yeah
things.
And I think that is one of our it's sort of like the reason why we still do the podcast more than anything. It is the kind of community engagement, having people contact us and message us, and not just for them to say, oh yeah, we like the show, but sometimes just want to ask us questions or tell us what they've been up to and show us what they've been painting. And I find that kind of stuff really interesting, and that's led to kind of the community questions that we do at the end of some of our shows, just because we want that more of that audience participation and have a chance for our listeners to kind of reach out to us, and for it not to be just us spouting our opinions, and actually give them a voice on our show to give their thoughts and feelings. Because quite often, while some of it is sometimes give us questions that we're going to read out and answer, but quite often it's them saying what they like about the Codex, or what they think's good, what they think's bad about whatever's happening in the world of 40k. So I like that audience participation that we get out of the podcast.
Yeah, I totally agree. No, it's awesome. Well, there we go. I think we've addressed all the various points in terms of where we're at, where we've been, and where we've come from. Again, apologies if it potentially came across a bit self-indulgent. Kind of is the par for the course, I guess, when it comes to these kind of retrospective pieces. But, you know, again, it has been the highs and the lows of this kind of stuff. And obviously losing Joe in terms of, you know, losing him from the podcast 7-8 months ago was, you know, pretty rubbish. I think we are obviously really happy for him that he's doing something that he loves and is able to enjoy, you know, working within the hobby now, which is fantastic for him. So yeah, I mean, that's been awesome, but yeah, genuinely it is a shame that he couldn't join us on this occasion, but hopefully we'll see him again in the future. But beyond that, I'm genuinely thrilled that we did it, that we've achieved 100 episodes, and that by all accounts we're going to continue to do so. I think obviously all I can really do is say thank you, Phil, for being alongside me and you know, contributing to all of this. And you know, it's been awesome, mate. And you know, obviously to the listeners as well, thank you very much for supporting us for all this time. I once did the exercise of working out exactly how many hours of content we'd produced. It was a lot. So those of you who have actually listened to all of it, I sincerely salute you and your you know, ongoing efforts to support the show. You know, it's been a really amazing and continues to be a really amazing journey. So no, it's a privilege to be able to do this and to be able to have an audience and to be able to be, you know, invited into people's lives in whatever way that we are. And I think that's the greatest thing about the podcast, is that it makes me feel good when I see the 5-star reviews, when I see people reach out to us. It makes me feel good when I see the bad stuff, when I see people slagging us off or saying they don't like us, because at least we reached people, you know. I think at the end of the day, I'm really happy with where it's at too. And I think that's all I can really say on my side of things. So yeah, thank you very much. Phil?
It's like an end of 5-star review. I've got to do some thanks. Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for coming. It's been great to receive this award that we've been blessed for award and reward of 100 episodes. If anyone, I mean, you're obviously listening to this now. Thank you for listening, even if this is your first episode. If this is your 100th episode, congratulations. You deserve a prize and also to be wheeled off to the loony bin because you are quite mad to listen to that much of us. If you've ever commented on anything or reached out to us, thank you again. And if you've left us a 5-star review, an extra thank you, double thank you, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like we should insert an old voiceover of Joe. You know, when he's done a little monologue about not being able to appear because he's ill or something. I feel like we could reuse that, insert him in here. I also want you to insert some of our famous favorite quotes, if you could dig them out from the audio files. I think that's a great time.
Yeah, I will probably, I am looking at putting that together. So that'll probably appear somewhere. Might appear now, might appear later, might appear throughout. I'm seeing what kind of stuff we managed to get through between now and Saturday in terms of the production. So obviously we put the feelers out for some people to hopefully, throw some sentiments our way. But truth be told, I feel slightly anticlimactical for episode 100 because I haven't really had the time to focus on it, and it has just appeared because obviously we're on that weekly cadence. There's no time to think. It's just do. So in a way, it's sort of, I'll see what I can do. I wanted to do something to do episode 100 justice because it's an important milestone to me and to the show, but at the same time, I'm just happy that we're here putting this stuff out. And so whatever it ends up being, I'm just happy that we got here. And I'm looking forward to episode 200.
Exactly. I mean, worst case scenario, you can insert some generic stock audio of some party poppers now. Yay.
I love that you're now making my job more difficult, but thank you. There we go. Good. No, seriously though, guys, thank you so much. That's the end of that. We're going to move on now to whatever it is that comes next. Transitional noise. Woo! But by the way, when I was having that conversation, were you rattling things around in the background, much like you're doing right now?
Oh God, no. To assume that I would do anything other than sit here and stare blankly at a wall.
That must just be my imagination. Phil, did you hear anything, or is it just me?
It's totally him. It's always him. We know it.
It sounds like you're not prepared like I usually am.
Well, that's possibly true, but I probably read more of it than you would have read. So
That's true. You opened it.
Well, exactly. Yes.
The cellophane has been taken off it. That's a step in the right direction. Normally, Joe's just rubbing the cover against his forehead, hoping that some of the information will seep in. Oh God,
Do you want me to give some examples?
Please, yes, absolutely. Let's have a happy gas mask. Right, okay, I mean, a bit disconcerting to say the very least.
He's very happy.
Oh, clearly very happy, enjoying themselves greatly. Tell the difference between a goat wailing and a goat giving birth?
I imagine one would be less pleasurable than the other. I don't know. I'm not a professional goat listener.
Not a professional goat.
Ooh.
Hey, you like the sound of that, Phil? Good hobby tips?
Exactly. Always keep your tools wet when you're doing sculpting. No, it is a top tip. I'm green stuffing right now. Keep your tools.
He doesn't say much, does he? But when he does...
Wow.
Keep your tools wet.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. I am sorry to say I am not going to be able to do this week's podcast because I am dying from what people selfishly would describe as man flu, and I am weak and unable to work. But I'm pretty sure it's a virus. It's touch and go. But to save you all from relentless coughing fits and nose blowing and my traditional background rustling, which isn't me, and no one can prove it. Yeah. So I will be with you next time for the Joe Show. You just stuck with the others this week, I'm sorry. But it's okay to have a down week, I'm sure. Alright then. Well, thank you for listening. I love you. Goodbye.
Fingers on buzzers, everyone, because it's time for the end of the show quiz.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of Lookouts 40k podcast, the special quiz we have put together for today.
Wee! Woo!
We forgot it was called End of the Show Quiz already.
Welcome to... Did I forget already? Yeah, the end of the show quiz. What?
There it is.
There was a point
name.
where it was not the end of the show quiz, when it was at the beginning, which was a dark time and wasn't as good.
Did we ever put the quiz at the beginning? I don't think we ever put the quiz at the beginning.
Yeah, there was a time when it was like in part of the news. And then-
Oh yeah, no, we incorporated it into the news. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that was not for very long. I don't think that system didn't really work.
How did we overlook that in our retrospective bit, Phil? We never mentioned about that time where we tried to shill the news all the time.
It's a hazy blur.
It is a hazy blur. The things you do while, whatever.
Phil was not a fan of that section at all.
Phil is rarely a fan of anything unless it involves his opportunity to talk about his latest hobby projects. That's literally the default.
It's the only reason why I'm here.
Well, exactly. The rare instance where you get to tell us about the fact that you put yet another layer of bronze on some...
How dare you?
Exactly, I haven't done that in years.
Layer 100.
Now let me tell you.
Yeah, please tell us more about the layers of bronze, Phil.
I'm not.
No. Okay,
Oh. Okay, so we have a special quiz for today. Well, for this week's podcast, which is themed around the podcast itself.
Oh, hello!
Because it's the anniversary of the podcast. Also,
I'm
themed
expecting
around
Tim to do very well. He's our biggest fan.
Well, he'd certainly do. Yeah.
I mean, I'll try.
Yeah. So it's themed around the quiz itself. Also themed around the number 100.
Oh yes,
because
okay.
it's the 100th episode, and
Okay.
I also got my buddy Ryan to help with some lore questions, which are of varying difficulty.
Hang on now. This was an unapproved name drop. Who? Buddy who? I've never heard of this person.
Oh, my buddy Ryan, the lore master brother Ryan.
Oh, okay. What is his credentials? What gives him the right to be the lore master?
He has read more Warhammer 40,000 books than anyone I know.
Oh, he hasn't just watched some YouTube videos, you mean?
He hasn't just watched YouTube videos. He hadn't just read Wikipedia summaries. He actually reads the books and makes good recommendations.
A proper lore master.
He's a proper reader.
Does he listen to an audio book while reading the book?
I don't know if he's done that at the same time.
That would be a heck of a thing to behold if it would happen. Well, thank you, Ryan, for your contributions. We know not who you are, but, ever so slightly, we are connected now.
Well, he'll be very proud of the name. He'll be very happy with the name drop. So, but
Exactly.
you say that now. You haven't heard the questions. You might hate him by the end of this.
Oh, okay, fine.
But we will end on his lore questions. But
All right.
first of all, we will have some questions themed loosely around the number 100.
Okay. Although before that, will we do the whole buzzer introduction as is tradition?
We probably should, and then as is tradition, I have forgotten to do that part.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. It's been so
So
long,
we will do the buzzer testing. Let's start with Tim. Would you like to test your buzzer works?
Okay, let me click it now.
Inside me, you are safe, Piglet. You are family.
Join us. Join us. Well, look at that. What a buzzer sound that was.
I think
Tim, do you have any preference? Not that I don't know what the buzzer just was, but oh yeah, you wanted the Orc War, didn't you?
I wanted the Orc War for
I
something
definitely gave you that Orc War. That definitely happened.
Totally.
You're very proud of that one.
Okay, next up we're gonna have Phil's buzzer.
Okay, so normally it's a classic of fixed bayonets, but because I'm all about the bronze painting at the moment, I've gone for something a bit different.
I am Foxman.
I mean, that beautifully personifies the whole ongoing bronze painting saga that you are telling us all about.
Exactly.
I can't wait to hear what sound Dan uses for that.
Well, indeed. The problem is the weight of expectation I put upon myself is far too great, and in the end, I just cave in and give Phil what he wants.
I mean, I'd hope so.
Exactly. That's what this whole relationship is based on.
And so we've heard two of our buzzers, and our final buzzer for today is from Dan.
It is indeed. And my buzzer sounds a little bit like this.
Wow, I don't see any geothermal energy. When's it gonna start?
Well, Timmy, nature has her own schedule.
Oh.
But let's see if we can't give her a little nudge. We're gonna need another Timmy.
There it is. How exciting, eh? Oh, what a noise.
And I've remembered to clear the buzzers now so we don't forget for all the questions, because that would be really
I'm
embarrassing.
sure you won't forget at any point.
I definitely hope I won't forget, because that would be embarrassing. Okay.
I will aspire to do my best.
On that note, let us begin the quiz with question number 1.
Question number 1.
In the game of Warhammer 40,000, which model has exactly 100 wounds?
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan has buzzed in.
Is it the Tau Manta?
It is not the Tau Manta.
Oh,
Phil has buzzed in.
The Warlord Titan.
It is not the Warlord Titan.
You are family.
And to get, what I will say is that Dan, you were too low, and Phil, you were too high.
Oh, okay.
Is it
Tim?
Is it the Tyranid Bio Titan?
It is not the Tyranid Bio Titan. No.
Is that the name of it though, Tim? The Tyranid Bio Titan?
No, but it is a Titan-esque.
If it Hydrodrol or something?
Yeah, something
If
like
it if it was a Tyranid, I would have given you that. It is incorrect. The correct answer is the Warbringer Nemesis Titan.
The what now?
The
Warbringer
newer
Nemesis
version
Titan.
of the Reaver.
Is that
with the big cannon on the back?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I would have also accepted the Chaos Warbringer Nemesis Titan as well.
That's very generous of you.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you.
How magnanimous.
Okay, so starting off, all to play for, level playing field still. Question number 2. Which weapon has a range of exactly 100 inches at the time of recording this podcast, according to the Warhammer 40,000 app? There are 2 weapons which have that range, and I will accept either the... Oh, you'll get a bonus point if you get the name of the weapon, but I'll give you a point if you guess what the actual unit is that has the weapon.
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan's buzzed in.
I'm going to say the orcs with the Grot Zap gun.
You are.
It's not the orcs who've got that gun.
Oh, I thought maybe because I don't know if it's actually still called the Zap gun. It's the auto-hitting anti-flyer gun, but I forget what it's actually called now.
I mean, I might have to check up to make sure that's not that doesn't also have it.
Oh, it might do. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It just seemed like the sort of thing that would be. I love the idea that they would throw absurd stats at the orcs. Anyway, Tim's buzzed in.
Tim's buzzed in second.
Oh, that would be amazing if it was 100 inches. Sorry, with the orcs. Those Death Strike killer missiles that the Imperium have. Oh.
Brilliant.
I don't know these names. I just know what they look
no, but
like.
you actually did say it.
Oh, is that actually the name?
It is the Death Strike. No, you're incorrect. The Death Strike is actually 200 inches.
Ooh.
Oh, what?
Compensating, eh?
Last one is
I've
Phil.
got another idea, but...
I had buzzed to say the Death Strike missile launcher as well, so I'm obviously going to have to change my answer.
Again, you've got exactly 5 seconds to think of a different
I'm going to
answer.
say the Orc Smasher Grabber.
It is not an Orc Smasher Grabber. I will reset the buzzers and let you have another go. Oh, Tim's buzzed in.
Okay, is it the other version, the Manticore?
No, it is not a Manticore.
There's only one other I can think of. Can I say my other? Everybody else.
No, you can't. You can't keep.
Phil's having a go.
I don't think it is. I'll say the Basilisk.
It's not the Basilisk.
I didn't think it was.
We're gonna need another Timmy.
I'll stay within the orc camp and say the shock attack gun.
No.
I'm pretty sure the shock attack gun was 48-inch range, but I just You gave me a hint that it might be orcs when I said orcs. You were like, "Ooh,
I mean,
ooh."
I'm resetting the buzzers because there are two answers. One of the answers is related to orcs, but you, in the words of Tom Hardy, you need to think a little bigger, darling.
All right. Let's see. You can't be resetting the buzzers again. Seriously.
Well, I can just tell them.
No. Phil's buzzed in. He's doing it.
Well, I was going to say,
want
I
one
don't
more
know the name of it, but is it the giant Gatling cannon on the Super Heavy that they've got?
Brilliant. You didn't know any of the names.
Well, the Gargant? The Gatling cannon on that.
It is.
It's not a Garg.
It's not a
Oh,
Gargant. No,
I can never remember what
it's not called a Gargant, and it's not a Gatling cannon on a Gargant.
Okay, my last guess is the basilisk.
No, Phil
I
thought.
I have to
Did
say
you
this must
ask?
be quite painful for the listeners at home to listen.
Sorry.
I know. For my last,
just a reference, the basilisk is 240 inches.
For God's sakes!
We're gonna need
Those crazy
For
guard
my-
armies.
For my absolute last guess, I will go with I'll try and take a page out of Phil's book. The big rail cannons on the back of the large Tau fella.
It is not the big rail cannons on the back of the
See,
yeah,
you mock
out
me,
of it.
but I know exactly what model you're talking about.
Exactly right.
I just don't know what it's called.
It's not. Oh,
It was a stomper, by the way, Phil.
A
A stomper.
Stomper, that's it.
Yeah,
the
and if you said-
Gargant's the epic version that are even
If you
bigger.
said Stomper, you would have been right because it is a Stomper.
Wait, so I
Stomp-
got it right, is what you're saying?
No,
You
because
didn't
said,
know.
you said a Gargant and you said the Gatling cannon when it's actually the super rockets on the Stomper are exactly 100 inches.
That's what I meant. That's what I
And
meant.
a Gatling weapon on a different vehicle, the Macro Gatling Blaster on the Warlord Titan, is also 100 inches.
So I also got it right. I just said different
you got
bits of both answers.
Yeah.
Technically, that's a 2-point answer right there.
I mean,
Sure.
it's
No,
sure.
Phil.
It's not. Before,
Fair enough.
Chlorine.
so fortunately for everyone involved, there's no more questions along those specific kind of lines anymore.
Oh, we were 2 and done on the 100.
Yeah, I called it the 100 Club, and then I got 2 questions into it.
Not 100. Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Amazing.
But I was trying to find what's exactly 100 because there's lots of things that are over 100. I thought there's only
Yeah.
exactly 100, and I spent time looking through the app for that. So wanted to get my value out of it.
I
Right.
appreciate that.
Question number 3. According to Runtherd Dersnang, who has recently featured in animated short called Old Baelai, what do the Umis say a lot?
Oh, no. I am Foxman.
Phil has buzzed in.
Is it for the Emperor?
It is for the Emperor. The Umis
that
do
is
say
right.
for the Emperor a lot.
Oh, my God. Well done. Well done.
Nice one, Phil. Nice one.
Phil is leading the pack now.
Phil is leading the pack with 1 point.
Well done, Phil. Well done.
That's a great lead.
He is a great lead. Okay. Next question. Okay, moving on to questions relating to the podcast.
Oh.
Ooh.
How many episodes, including this one, which is being recorded right now, have there been on the Lookout Sir 40k podcast? If you go and try and listen to one on a
I am Foxman.
Phil has buzzed in.
Now, me and Dan talked about this earlier, and I don't know if it's actually true. I'm going to say 102
Why would you say 102?
because there's a couple of extra episodes.
No,
on
I
there.
mean, I mean, you're incorrect. It's
We're
not,
gonna
it's
need
not
another
102.
Timmy.
Can you
Dan.
repeat the question, Rich? Because I didn't hear the entirety of you there. I'm hopeful that that's going to come through fine once I do the editing, but I
Okay.
didn't hear you very well.
Sorry.
It's all right.
How many episodes are there, including this one we're recording now, of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast?
On the YouTube channel?
If you are going to a podcast service and you're scrolling through all the podcasts available to listen to, how many are there?
If you include this one, it would be 101.
It's correct. It is 101 point for Dan.
No.
The one being the bonus podcast, which was the 2019 Quiz of the Year.
It was, yeah. Phil, if you remember, we said 102 if you included the test episode.
I knew it was a trick question though of some kind.
And technically, there's 103 episodes if you can find the hidden 10th episode somewhere.
But I don't think that's out there. I think
No, it's out there, but it's not on a. Well, who knows where it is?
Is that the After Hours one we did?
Yeah, that was the After Hours one.
Yeah.
I was trying to find where that was, and it's not on the podcast, whatever they call it, the things where they all populated.
Yeah, it's hidden in plain sight, but you have to find it.
Ooh, exciting.
Okay. Reset the buzzers. Next question. How many special guests have there been on the Lookout Sir podcast?
I am Foxman's
excluding people who have only been in it for the purposes of asking a question during the Big Fat Quiz of 2019.
Okay.
And I'm not talking multiples. If someone's been on it more than once, it still counts as them only being on it once. The first person to buzz in was Phil.
Well, there's several answers here, depending on how you're judging it.
There's one on my answer sheet.
There's been 3 special guests, but we've also had Toke on the show and Adam on the show. So if you're including both of them, it would be 5. If not, then 3.
I mean, I'm including anyone who is not a series regular. And that would be basically anyone who isn't you, Dan, or Joe.
Then it should be 5.
Oh, so what, yourself as well, Rich?
Phil has guessed 5, which is the wrong answer.
So are you including yourself and Tim in this arrangement, you would say?
I mean, if myself and Tim are not...
Oh, you well, you know,
we are not you, Joe, or Dan.
That is true. That is true.
So
I always consider you lads regulars, but you know, I understand now.
We were, but then our social media information was taken out of the text of the show. So
we used to have Sean in there, for God's sakes. He's never appeared.
Well, he gave us a question on Big Fat Quiz of the Year.
He did, but that as mentioned, that doesn't count for the person.
That doesn't count. Big Fat Quiz of the Year questions don't count.
I'm going to say
we're going to need another Timmy.
10.
10 is incorrect.
So we had Scarcast, Winters SEO, Valric, Paulie the Real Space Raider, Toke of Krieg fame, Adam, Richie, Tim. So I'm gonna say 8, unless I've forgotten something.
That is correct. I'm gonna give you a bonus point for naming all of the people who they are as well.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop.
Phil's in shock.
Shock and rage. Shock and rage.
You were wrong. You forgot.
Technically,
you forgot.
No, I forgot Paulie. To be fair, yeah.
I'm going to increase my my number, even though it's wrong. 9. Richie's mum. Because she did appear in an episode momentarily.
In that case, if your answer's 9, Dan, I've got to take your points away because that's the wrong
answer.
No,
it's 8.
Do it,
Richie.
Points away.
No, it's 8. It's 8.
Yeah, so there we go. Dan got that question right.
I mean, I do edit the things, you know.
So you may have potentially had an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. I might have had a hand in that.
I mean, I was tempted to ask, including the people who did the questions for the quiz, but that would have been a bit unfair because I think only you and I would remember that, Dan.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, I remember him.
Okay, next question. What was the number of the, as in official number, not including test episodes and all that, of the infamous Joe
You
show?
are family.
Join us.
Join us.
Tim,
At that just the other day.
Tim has buzzed in.
I think it was number 3.
I will go for. I will give it to whoever's closest to this one. Tim has gone for number 3, which is not correct.
I feel like it was quite early on.
Phil,
I thought it was
quite early on.
18.
We're gonna need another
Phil's gone to
Timmy.
18, which is not the correct answer. If it was correct, I'll say you got it, but it's not correct.
Okay.
You might still be closest. Dan.
I am fairly confident it was episode 14.
See, I kind of feel I should give you a bonus point because it is episode 14.
Nice. Surely he just gets the point.
I'm not going to give
bonus
you a bonus
point.
point, no. But
Was it?
You're already winning. You're already winning. So I'm not going to give you a bonus point for that one.
Was it the Gene Stealer Cult edition?
I can't remember what he talked about, but it was funny because me and Phil were talking about the retrospective on things, and I remember calling out the Joe show as one of my highlights, and that's why I remember it, because I called it out literally yesterday, and then it was like, I couldn't remember exactly, but I was between 13 and 14, but there it is.
You know what? I'm going to give Tim a point because it was about Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah! Have a point, Tim, on the board.
Because me and Joe railroaded that episode. That's why I remember it.
You can have my bonus point, Tim. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's, I don't deserve it.
This is how I get off the gates in the quiz.
Okay, that's the. We'll take a time out from questions about the quiz itself.
Okay.
And we'll go on to a quiz again themed around the number 100.
Ooh.
So, I don't know how well this is going to go. These sections might be worse than the first ones based on 100, but let's give it a go. So, my question is, how much do you need to spend, not including shipping, in GBP, British pounds, to buy from the official Games Workshop store 100 Space Marine intercessors?
Space Marine intercessors. Can I use a calculator?
You can use a calculator, but you can't, obviously go to the website.
We're going to need another
Dan has buzzed in.
£360. Sorry, £365.
Dan has gone for £365 as a starting bid. Who's next?
Okay, hang on.
Wait, what was that? 365.
65.
I'm going. Hold on, let me buzz in.
Phil's buzzed.
355.
Phil's gone 355, and Tim.
I'm going to go. There's 5. Is there 5 to a box? I think there's 5 to a box, and on that premise, I'm going 650.
Crikey.
£650.
You might be thinking
heavy intercessors, maybe.
there, Tim. That's a point. The answer is, so there are 10 in a box, and they are currently 35.
Then it would have
been
£350.
£350. That is a point to Phil.
Well done, Phil. For some reason, I thought they were £36.50. Obviously,
I thought they were 32 quid, and there was 5 to a box.
I thought they were 35.50.
Okay, so bearing in mind, 100 intercessors will cost you £350. How much would you need to spend to have 100 Ogrins?
Ooh,
oh my
100
God.
Ogrins.
How many even come in a box? 5? 3?
So,
I mean, no, that can't be right. No.
I'll tell you there are 3 in a box.
yeah, there were 3 in a box.
Right, okay, that's stupid. Like,
You
I'm going
are
to take a stab.
family.
Tim's having a go.
Is it like a grand or like anywhere
Tim,
near
is that your guess? Is it your guess?
Yeah. I'm going to say
£1,000?
1,100.
Tim has gone for £1,100.
We're going to need another
Dan.
So I am working on the assumption that they are £35 for a box of 3. Therefore, 10 boxes, which would give me 30 models, will be £350. I need to buy another 2 of those, so that's 900. £1,050, isn't it? At that point, because it'd be 700 for that, and then it would be 4 boxes on top of that. So that will be. What did you say, Tim?
1,100.
Well, I'll say 1,200 then. Whatever. Just leave it at that.
Dan's going for 1,200. Phil.
I'll just go for 1,000 then.
Tim gets the point. The answer is £1,105.
Yeah!
They are £32.50 a pack, and you will need to buy 34 boxes, which would get you 102 because you'll have 2 spare.
Yes, indeed.
Nice. Jesus.
Tim. Okay, mix up a little bit.
I don't like these math-related
Ogrins.
questions.
So just remember, we've had £350 for the intercessors, 1,105 for the Ogrins. How much would you need to spend to get 100 Gretchen?
Oh my God. Okay.
We're going to need another Timmy.
Dan's going in.
To get 100 Gretchen would be £180.
Dan's gone for £180. Tim.
I've buzzed in by accident. I need to do the maths. Sorry. I think right.
You've got to say something before Phil does, because you buzzed.
160 quid.
£160 from Tim. Phil.
What did Dan say? Sorry.
180.
I'm going to be tactical and go 190 then.
You were tactical in the wrong direction. It's a point to Tim. The answer is £125.
Way, really?
How much?
And you'll also get 10 runt herds for that.
I was going to say you get 10 runt herds with it as well. I thought they were.
They're £12.50.
They still £12.50. I just couldn't allow myself to believe they were still that cheap.
I mean, I'm gonna have to check that, but like I checked earlier, they were £12.50.
Is it 10 Gretchen and the runt herd, right?
Box, yeah.
I thought they were like 20 quid for some reason.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I thought they would have because I remember buying 100 of them when I collected orcs in 4th edition, and they were like, I was like, wow, these are like great value. It's like, anyway.
Okay, question number 4. How much would you need to spend to get 100 gene stealers?
Ooh.
See, Tim knows how many of these come in a box, probably.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Come on. You're right.
Phil's buzzed in first.
I'm going to say 280.
Phil's saying £280.
I'm going to go with 350.
Tim's gone with 350. Dan?
I am going to say 200.
So Phil's going to get the point because the answer is £270. They are £22.50 a box, and there are 8 in a box, so you need to buy 12 of them.
I got the number, but I didn't get the price. Yeah.
I thought there was 12 in a box. My bad.
I remember there being 8 in a box because I was trying to field 10 gene stealers when I was first started collecting Tyranids, and it was like there's only 8 in a box, so I now have to buy another box. So now I've got 16. Great.
So now I've got to buy another box. So now I've got 24. Oh, when will this end?
The horror. But you can only have a max squad of 20. Sorry, anyway.
Right, last question in this round. If you wanted to get 100 Canoptech Scarab Swarms,
oh god,
how much would you need to spend?
Canoptech.
There's multiple layers to this question because it's slightly tricky.
I mean, no idea.
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan's buzzed in.
Okay, it's a big number.
Okay,
it's where I'm coming from. So I'm just trying to do the last little bit of mental arithmetic. I'm going to say it is £3,000.
That is a very big number you've gone for. Why have you gone for such a big number?
Because you get, I think you get 2 bases in a box of Necron Warriors, and I think Necron Warriors are weirdly 30 quid. And in order to get the scarabs, you've got to buy to get 10 scarabs, you've got to buy 5 boxes. Therefore, you've got 5 boxes worth times 10 is my logic, but I might be wrong with the numbers.
I'm going to say your logic is semi-sound. Your numbers are off.
Oh, okay.
you were thinking in the right way.
Okay.
Tim, you buzz next.
Yep. Hang on a minute.
Are you redoing your sums after what Dan just said? Because Dan was wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
What was your number, Dan?
3,000.
It was 3,000. I've done Richie quizzes before, mate.
Yeah,
I know where where he's going.
Yeah. So yeah, you can only I only know scarabs with the Necron Warriors, so I'm going to say like $1,000-ish.
Tim's going to say $1,000.
Ish.
Yeah. Ish.
The ish is important. Get the ish.
$1,000 and a penny.
$1,000 and a penny. Okay.
My calculation it was based on 2 scarabs per box, so I went for 1,066.
1,066. So what I can tell you is you are all thinking correctly. You only get them in the Necron Warriors boxes. You get 3 per box of Necron Warriors. They are £29 each, which means you'd need to spend £986. So Tim gets the point.
Oh,
well done, Tim. Well done. I was over egging.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have enough time to do the complete mental arithmetic, so I just went, big number, $3,000.
I thought it was going to be like a trick question where there might be some on Forge World, but I don't remember.
They used to be, didn't they? They used to be scarabs.
Yeah, they weren't the normal ones, though. They were specific.
Oh, yes, very specific
type.
scarabs. I'm sure everyone knows the difference.
So, so the roughly sort of just over halfway point of the quiz, in joint first with 4 points, is Dan and Tim.
Yeah.
With
This is
4
like my
points
best performance. Sorry.
I'm having that moment of realization. I'm doing like a dance, and then I realize that, oh yeah, it's an audio podcast. I need to say something to illustrate my excitement. Oh boy! There you go.
And so yeah, Tim and Dan joint lead with 4 points, and in second place with 3 points is Phil. So right behind them.
That's a respectable score, Phil. A respectable score.
Got to catch up.
This is the closest we've ever had the quiz at the halfway point.
Oh.
So now we're going to move on to a section which could be no one gets right, but could be lots of people get it right. I don't know. This is again 100 themed. I have picked 5 episodes of the podcast, and I fast forwarded to 100 minutes. I have then taken what was said at that time, and you have to guess who said it.
Brilliant.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is it everyone? Every answer is basically Dan. Because
I'm going to level with you. I had to go through a few because Dan talks a lot on these podcasts, and I don't want to all be Dan.
I don't understand what you're talking about. That isn't true.
So first question is in episode 1, at 100 minutes in, someone said, "There's 3 points between the two, isn't it?"
I am Foxman.
Phil buzzed in.
Sounds like something I would say, but I'm going to say Joe.
It was Joe. Point to Phil.
I was going to say Joe.
Point goes to Phil. And for a bonus point, can you guess what he was referring to?
We're gonna need another Timmy.
The points of Space
Don't
Marines.
you take this.
No,
and
not Space Marines. Dan buzzed in for this one. What do you think it was?
I buzzed in with that. Is it the difference between an Armiger Warglaive and an Armiger Helverin?
It is. The difference between a
is it
Warglaive and a Helverin.
we were talking about knights?
Yeah, I knew I knew in episode 1 we were talking about knights.
Okay.
I mean, I am incredibly smugly sad that I got that right, though.
And there's literally exactly what I've got on the answer sheet here. The difference in price between an Armiger Warglaive and an Armiger Helverin.
No.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Okay. The next podcast I looked at was episode 10. And at 100 minutes in, somebody said, "We're in the closing moments, I would say, or the closing few bits."
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan has buzzed in.
I said it.
It's correct. Dan did say it.
Yeah, of course.
And for a bonus point, to the closest amount of minutes, how wrong were you?
Closest
As in,
about
how
a
many
minute.
minutes after you said we're closing in on the end of the podcast? How many minutes still had to go?
And that was 100 minutes. Say, so that was episode 10. We were relatively tame back then, so I'm going to say 40 minutes.
Dan's going to say 40 minutes. Phil?
45.
45. Tim?
I'm going for the hour.
It's going to be... You're all wrong, but Tim is closest. There was still 90 minutes to go.
I thought it was quite a big segment.
I suppose by episode 10 we'd gotten into the rhythm of it. Early doors we managed 2-hour episodes like normal people.
After that it just went up.
Yeah, it all went wrong.
Okay, next episode we looked at was podcast number 25. And the quote at 100 minutes in was, "And like Oddjob in Goldfinger, I'll crush
We're
the
gonna
dice with
need
my
another
fingers."
Timmy.
Dan has buzzed in.
That's totally Joe.
It was Joe.
Anything involving that kind of nonsense has to be Joe. I couldn't have ever imagined Phil saying.
No, it was definitely Joe. Yeah.
Definitely Joe.
Okay.
Do we get a bonus of what the heck he was on about?
No, there was no context I could possibly give for that one.
It just happened.
It just
Move
happened.
on. Yeah.
Okay, next question. In episode 60, who at 100 minutes in said the map layout was basically lots of roads in parallel with each other.
Family.
Join us.
Tim has buzzed in.
I'm going to say that's a Phil.
It was a Phil. That was
It
Phil.
sounded like a Phil.
And for a bonus point, can you guess what he was referring to?
Oh,
Phil
maybe
has
a
buzzed
Warhammer.
in.
Oh,
Oh
Phil's
no,
buzzed in.
let Tim do it first.
Oh,
'cause
Tim, you can go
got the
first. I mean, I
question,
wouldn't,
sure.
Phil. If he gets this right, you're going to be further behind.
I was going to say a Warhammer GT event that we went to.
I'm not going to give it to you for Warhammer GT event. I'm afraid.
Okay.
Phil, you buzzed in.
Do I have to say the event? Because clearly I was talking
Yeah, you'd
about
have to. It was an event, but you'd have to say which event it was.
Oh, let's say No Retreat.
It was involving you, so of course it was No Retreat.
Yeah, there it is. That's all he ever talks about. Hello, I'm Phil.
And
No
painting
retreat, no
things
retreat.
bronze, of course.
But yeah, and bronze. And Krieg. Don't forget Krieg. You haven't mentioned Krieg.
He
yet.
has. He's
Exactly.
forgotten Greek now. They're
Yeah.
too
Okay.
mainstream.
Okay, last question this round. In podcast number 58, who at 100 minutes in said, and as I say, ever so slightly envious that they never want to
We're
accept...
gonna need another Timmy.
Dan?
Well, because you said, as I say, that's going to be me.
It was you.
Because that is what I always say. But what was the end of the quote?
Yeah.
The full quote was, and as I say, ever so slightly envious that they never want to accept my invitation.
Also talking about No Retreat.
Also talking about No Retreat.
It was also talking about No Retreat, yes. But you both said it at the same time, so I can't give anyone a bonus.
No, Phil kicked it off. He deserves that point.
I'll give Phil that point. Okay, so at the end of that round, in first place with 8 points is Dan, bringing up the rear of joint second. Or was it joint third? I forget how you word. No, it's joint second is Phil and
joint
Tim
second.
with 6 points each.
Ooh,
Yeah.
close.
Strong, powerful.
And now we're going to move in to make or break time in the law round, courtesy of my buddy Ryan.
Thanks,
Good old Ryan.
Okay, so he's super into the law, so we could come out the end of this and it's still 8-6. So, but these are some really good questions, and I hope the listeners at home enjoy them, and I hope some of you guys can get these as well.
God, stop putting Ryan over so hard. We get it. He's your friend.
If these questions are so good, we'll get him on to do the quiz next time and do you out the job.
he has suggested that he would be better than me anyway. So
I disagree.
Okay.
Shame on you, Ryan, for saying as much.
Question number 1. What was the original name of the planet Armageddon?
Oh, I know it, but I don't know it.
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan's buzzed in.
Orky Funland.
It's not Orky Funland.
Okay. I can't remember. I can't remember.
Phil, Tim, either of you want to have a go?
I'm drawing a blank.
It's something orky. That much I can give.
Phil?
I don't think
it's a complete guess. It's like Ceractus.
It's not Ceractus, no. Do you want to have a Hail Mary guess, Tim?
No. All I can think of is Cadia. So, and I know it's not Cadia.
It's not Cadia.
I mean, that'd be a
Cadia.
transformation.
No.
Like in some weird time vortex.
The correct answer was Ulanor.
Oh, yeah.
How was it? Okay.
Unification of... Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it all makes sense when you know the answer, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
there we go.
Question number 2. Before being renamed by Mortarion, the Death Guard were known as what?
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan's buzzed in.
You
Tim
Dust
should have buzzed in for this, and he's going to regret not getting this one.
Yeah.
What is it, Dan?
Well, he might. If I get it wrong, is it the Dusk Warriors?
It is not the Dusk Warriors.
Oh, get out! You're gonna say it's what is it then, Tim?
Dusk Raiders.
It is the Dusk Raiders.
Ah!
Well done, Tim.
Thank you.
Well done, Tim.
All right, question number 3. Who was the first Phoenix Lord?
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Dan has buzzed in.
It was a sermon.
It was a sermon.
I would have got
No.
Who would you have gone for, Tim?
that. Now you put me on the spot, and the name's completely gone out of my head.
I mean,
Well, it's a good thing I
based
buzzed
on
in
the
first,
last
mate.
2 questions, I hope the next one's going to be about Krieg or Minotaurs, because those last 2 were gimmies for the other contestants.
Oh, well, then you're not gonna enjoy this next question then.
No.
Phil is so bitter in defeat, isn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe read a book.
It's one of my easy ones.
Maybe Ryan needs to read up on Siege of Vrax, potentially.
If I recall, Phil, didn't you get the question about Krieg wrong in the Big Fat Quiz of the Year?
Well, no. Do you know what? I got it wrong initially, but then gave Tim the correct answer because then I worked out what it was.
Okay.
So you got it wrong.
I was going to say Illidan for the last one. I thought Illidan might have been it, but
Illidan's not even a bloody
I thought
Phoenix.
it was.
Yeah.
No, mate, there's no Illidan.
No.
Illidan is just a really good sniper from the Eltok. Or the Eltok, how is it?
Okay.
Not one in the Emperor's Children, Horus Heresy.
I mean, there could have been an Illidan, but I don't think it was that.
Anyway,
Illidan.
sorry.
Is it like Steve for elves?
Steve, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's
They're all
pretty
Illidan.
common. They're all called that.
Exactly. You shout Illidan out at a bus station, they all turn around.
I mean, that would
Okay.
be a sight, wouldn't it?
It would be, yeah.
Right, question number 4. What was and you're not going to like this, Phil, just as a heads up.
Okay, thanks.
Question 4. What was the name given to the first
You are
Tyranid hive fleet?
family.
Join
us. Join us.
Tim's buzzed in first.
Behemoth.
It was Behemoth.
Oh, I knew that, but I wasn't quick enough off the mark.
Same.
Yes.
Phil, you
You
used
should have
to
got
play
that,
Nids.
Phil.
Yeah, you should have got
Well, you buzzed in too quick. I gave it.
Oh,
my best
Tim,
shot.
you're not-
Sorry,
Give him a
sorry for
chat.
playing the game, Phil. I'm like,
This fine. I don't hold it against you. I hold it against Ryan.
All right. Question number
Get
5.
right on.
Get me on at the end. Explain yourself, Ryan.
Question number 5. Which cast do Tau diplomats belong
We're
to?
gonna need another Timmy.
Dan?
Earth.
It is not Earth.
Oh,
Tim?
Air.
It is not air.
it's not air, no.
Phil.
I now know what it is.
Water.
but Phil said-
It is water.
Yeah, well done, Phil.
That was a guess by letting you do it through a process of elimination. So
Playing the
thank you very
system.
much.
Yes. I have to, now looking back on it, it was a fool to say Earth because clearly they're the builders. I was wrong. There we go.
What do air do then?
No, they
They
fly.
fly.
Yeah. They fly the ships and stuff. They got like more spindly bodies, so they're more able to cope with like the G forces and stuff. I think.
Yeah. Makes sense now.
There you go.
Okay, question number 6. What is the name of Castellan Crow's demon sword?
Wow. Okay. Castellan Crow.
Oh,
Yeah, you know, the
obviously
Grey Knight
my
fella
memory
with the
from
demon
last
sword.
episode. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh yeah, just go back to that. I don't know. I have no idea.
I
I'll
don't
buzz
know.
in.
We're gonna need another
There you
Timmy.
go.
Don't
Buzzed
say
in.
it.
Draknyen. Yeah, I know it's not, but I've said something.
See, I had to change the question because the original question was what was a Baden sword. I'm like, that's way too easy. We've got to change that.
Well, there you go. Come
Oh,
on
I
now.
would've
You've
got that.
changed Ryan's. You've changed
I
the
did change
purity
it. I
of
told-
Ryan's quiz.
Well, the irony is you got the question right, even though you didn't know what it was.
Exactly. There
I'm
you
not
go.
giving you a
Well
point
done.
now. I'm not giving you a point now.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Well, I thought that was a bit too. I was a bit an obvious one. I'm sure we've had that question before in the quiz as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I
no, I
think
think it's
so.
a pretty obvious question.
Maybe.
And I tried to be topical because it was, it was in the Hexfire box that some people
Yeah,
wanted
he's
to buy.
got a new swanky sword.
Yeah, and the name of that sword is the Black Blade of Antwer. Well, I'm
Old
probably
Antwiel.
I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
Probably.
Meh.
It's a made up word anyway, mate. Don't worry about it.
That's true. Okay, question 7. Can you name the 3 branches of the Inquisition?
We're gonna need another Timmy.
Oh,
Dan has buzzed
Dan,
in.
how did you beat me on that one? I hate
That's
you.
your question there, Phil. It's your question.
Phil, have it. Go on.
No, go on, Dan. It's yours.
All right, fine. I'm gonna get it wrong now. Aren't there technically 4 branches of the Inquisition, by the way?
I mean, no, there aren't. Is that your answer?
Oh,
There's actually 4. You trying to suggest it's a trick question and there's actually 4?
No, I was just saying, though, I thought there was 4 by the Codex. Isn't that right, Phil? Isn't there 4?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, in the
Fine.
Codex, they have Order Minoris, so it's like you can have characters.
Minoris.
Minoris, yeah. But
Anyway.
that's just all the others, all the little ones
Oh,
put
okay,
together.
that's all the others together. Anyway, it's the Ordo Malleus, which is the demon hunting one. The now I don't actually know what the Xenos one is. Ordo, I don't like the Xenos very much. Is it just Ordo Xenos? Ordo Xenos? Ordo Xenos. Xenos. And then there is the Ordo Hereticus.
I mean, you nearly fluffed it on the Ordo Xenos, because it is Ordo Xenos. Yes, Ordo Xenos,
It is, yeah.
Ordo Malleus, and Ordo Hereticus.
Yay! Sorry, Phil.
Boo.
I genuinely thought I was going to muck it up on the Xenos one, but I pulled through.
Okay, question number 8. Hydra Dominatus is the battle cry of which Space Marine Legion? Phil's buzzed in.
Alpha Legion?
It is the Alpha Legion.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Nice one.
I just thought it was always I am Alfarius with those guys, but I guess that's just what they say to
That's
others.
just for meme.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 9. 2 Aeldari gods are still alive. One,
We're gonna need another Timmy.
you have
Go
to
on,
answer before I
Dan.
finish the question then.
Oh, okay. Well, one of them is Calamentia Kane. So I'll say Calamentia Kane.
That is incorrect.
Okay, fine. Please finish the question.
I will now finish the question. 2 Aeldari gods are still alive. One is Segorak, the laughing god.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the other?
Well, then I'm right.
Nope. Not
She
according
got
to
Oh,
the
one
I'm
model.
wrong.
not right. Of course I'm not right, because Calamentia Kane's dead. Idiot.
So Phil, Tim.
Because that's what the Avatar is. The Avatar is the shattered...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, flipping egg.
No, I don't know.
No, I don't know either.
I know, but I can't say.
You've already buzzed. Well, you can't get the point. Would you like to say the answer?
Come on, Phil. You know the answer, mate. Think about it.
I bet you
What's
don't.
the name of the thing that you don't like about the Elder? They've got that thing, haven't they? That faction. They like death.
Oh, Yanari.
Yeah, but then what's the Inari
The
Avatar?
Incarn?
The Incarn. It's the Incarn of the...
I don't know what the other bit is.
Oh, you actually don't know, but it's like Inyed or something. Like, it's how you pronounce it. It's
So
weird.
the note I've been given here is that if anyone says Ined, they are still technically wrong, as Ined is
Oh.
only partially awake and is not alive yet. The
Oh.
correct
Oh,
answer,
okay.
the correct answer to the question is Isha, mother of the Eldari.
Oh, yes, of course, because she's held captive by the god of Nurgle, isn't she?
I mean, he'd know. I don't. I'm just reading
Oh,
the
so
question.
basically, Nurgle holds her captive and experiments with loads of like cocktails of poisons on her. So like, basically, she's like trapped in a bottle, being fed poison because Nurgle's a bit of an ass. But because she's the god of life, she kind of just gets better all the time. So it's just fun for him to be like, "Ooh, try out this."
What an unpleasant fellow.
Yeah, I know. He's not much fun, is he?
Okay, question 10, the last question. What is the name of the tomb world and galleries ruled by Trazyn the Infinite?
You know, that one who collects things. Oh no, that's the collector, isn't it? Not
It's
the
the
Infinite.
Trazyn the Infinite is the guy who collects the things.
Oh, he is the collector guy. Yes, he's the guy with the old orcs in a bottle.
Yeah, but what is the name of the tomb world where his collection is housed?
Oh, I don't know. I've no idea.
No guesses from anyone?
No.
I'm not really up on the Necron dynasties off the top of my head.
The correct answer was Solomnes.
Oh wow, you know, obviously there it is.
I mean, I asked him to put that one because I love the new book that was written by them. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Trazyn. So that is the end of the quiz, everyone, and the final scores are in joint second place with 8 points each. is Phil and Tim.
Hey, well done, the real winners. Well
Congratulations.
done, Tim.
Yeah. Just in the lead, but with 10 points is Dan. Possibly the closest quiz we've had for many, many days.
Close one this year. I mean, how many bonus points was I rewarded in that? Just the one for naming all the guests, right?
And the one about the Helverins and the Warglaves.
Oh, yes.
Take
Oh,
that off.
yes, I
It's a
got that
three-way
one.
draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no. Well, that one was an impromptu bonus point. That was a legitimate bonus question.
But then other people
There
got bonus points because Phil, you got bonus points for knowing that you were talking about no retreat.
Oh no,
Tim's got
Dan was
bonus
talking
point for
about
knowing
no retreat.
That is true. It was, yeah. I think you got both the no retreat.
Yeah, you got both no retreat questions, and Tim got a point for knowing that the podcast was far from over.
And the GC occult one.
And the GC occult, yeah.
And the GC occult one, yeah. No, some good podcast knowledge on display there, everybody. Thank you very much. It's weird at this point now, Rich, because obviously I've got to, accept, the praise and the glory of winning, because obviously that's an incredible accomplishment. And I'm very proud of myself. But also now it's the weird bit where I kind of now sort of take over to do the transition. So then we move into the outro. I'm not sure this has the same kind of natural pattern to it. Maybe you should do a transition to the outro.
To do a transition, okay.
Yeah, please, Rich, please.
Okay, well, that was the end of the show quiz, everyone. Dan has been crowned winner. Well done him. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed playing along at home. And also, well done to Tim and Phil for taking part and being
thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard, for actually doing it.
Race.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks,
well, yes, I did all of it. Thanks all to me.
Yes, well done, you.
Yeah. Got this Ryan person.
No. Down with this sort of thing.
Cool.
Stop outsourcing.
So yes, yeah, thank you for taking part, and we will now transition to the outro. Do you call it the outro? Do you still call it the outro?
Yeah, we're known to call it an outro.
Well, we will transition to the outro.
And that's it, everyone. The end of episode 100 of the Warhammer 40,000 podcast that goes by the identity of Look Out, Sir. It's been an absolute delight. Well done us on 100 episodes. And obviously, thank you, lads, for joining us for the quiz segment and now this outro segment. We've still got good old Tim.
Hello.
And good old Rich.
Yay. Happy to be
here.
here.
And Phil's here too.
Still here.
Way. So we're going to wrap up the show with just some general chitty chatter, fun and or frolics to take us home. Tim, how's the hobby stuff progressing in your world at the minute? You gotten into that kill team? You're all about that kill team, right? You love that kill team, yeah?
Oh, I'm all over it, mate. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
I've brought everything, all about the new orcs, and I look forward to painting those really complicated, like, monster trucks that they have going on.
Are you big into orcs now, Tim? Is this what I'm hearing? Is this legitimate sentiment?
I really wish I had the time to do orcs, because I really want to do, like, the new beast snaggers. Like, I think they look cool. They do look cool. But no, unfortunately not.
Have you done that thing where you've dialed down to your one specific Tyranid passion, and you're just gonna be all nids all the time, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I've got the new goal of trying to do the Nephilim King Court at some point.
Oh, you're going for the big Gribblies.
Because I don't have enough big Gribblies. Also, like, just more warriors. Everybody loves warriors.
What is the King's Court, though? Fill us in on that, just for those who aren't familiar with that short story.
Oh God, you put me on the spot there. I believe.
I mean, a abridged version is fine. I don't need all the intimate details.
I believe it's a High Fleet behemoth.
The red ones.
Yeah, a sort of formation, and it's basically got a swarm. It's basically got all the big Gribblies. So you got like a Swarm Lord, Carnifexes, Tyrannofexes, the odd warrior or two, and what else is in there? I think that's pretty, and a few other big like the Exocrines.
It's got the
Morlock in there.
Yeah, it's got pretty much the entire kind of lineup of big Gribblies, including the what's it called now, Phil? The big one, the big Forgeable one with all the claws.
No, that one wasn't in it. It was just a Games Workshop.
Oh, is it only Games Workshop Grimleys?
As far as I'm aware, it was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I know about it is it was in the painting guide book for Tyranids, and it was one of the showcase armies. And so each one was like named after like a royal member. So like, the king, the queen, the the guards and stuff like that, I think.
Fair enough. But, everyone's saying, Tim, that NIDS are going to be getting a book at the end of the year, that the December book will, at least be NIDS. So what are you hoping to see released alongside a fabulous new NID book?
New model would be great.
But what kind of a model? What sort of a model would satisfy little Tim?
A decent flyer, like a mid-range flyer.
Okay, you want sort of like mid-tier fly thing?
Yeah, something like slightly different, because like the Hive Crone and the Harpy don't they just don't live up to their like data sheet, and they never have. And so it'll be kind of nice if they did redo the rules of them. But I think having like a Landspeeder-esque Tyranid version would be kind of cool. And not...
Landspeeder Tyranid would be absolutely hilarious. Would there be other Tyranids inside of it?
Yeah. So basically, you just get a land speeder, and it's just a bunch of Termagants like riding it around, doing drive-bys with their flesh borers. Pew, 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 pew.
I mean, that would be quite a dramatic thing to witness.
I might actually model that now, just for the hell of it.
You can add that to the collection now. Get your land speeder thing in. I mean, I do get the thought process though on a mid-tier kind of NID flyer. I think that you are right. They are a bit kind of woefully underrepresented in the flying category. Obviously, you've got the gargoyles, you've got the crone and the harpy. Not the harpy. Well, whatever it is, the big ones. But like,
and the flying hive tyrant as well.
I'm flying hive tyrant, of course.
But the Harridan as well from Forge World.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go Forge World, you'll get like the Shrieks, or they used to do the Shrieks, which were like the flying Ripper Swarm. No, the warrior flying.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about earlier, Dan.
Yes. Yeah. What was I going to say? Would you be looking then for some sort of flying Carnifex? Is sort of the idea of it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It'd be like a bee, where scientifically speaking, it shouldn't be able to fly, but no one told it. So it's okay.
Do you remember that movie, A Bug's Life, when the caterpillar got his like little wings? It would be literally like that.
I'm a beautiful butterfly.
Yes, exactly. A giant Carnifex with like little gargoyle wings just flying towards everything. What more could you want on a tabletop?
Give it like a ridiculously poor movement, like I'm movement free.
Really ridiculous movement, but OP like crushing claws like they have in the Forge World Carnifexes. So if it actually touches anything, it just disintegrates it.
Yeah. Give it like 20 attacks at strength 10.
Yeah.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah.
So do you get that's one of the as well, Tim?
Pardon?
Would you get the Aerophant eventually if you were going to go with the big stuff?
I would like to go into the big stuff. I'd definitely like. Actually, that would be kind of cool if Games Workshop did a big version of like a Forge World-esque kind of level. So something bigger than the Swarm Lord or Hive Tyrant would be quite nice as well.
They'd also imagine, because they've been doing it a lot, a scenery piece. Get some like spore thing going on.
Do you remember the old scenery pieces you used to get? Or that very limited run of Tyranid scenery pieces?
They're really nice.
Yeah, was that official? Was that Forge World or G-Dubs? I can't remember.
Forge World did a bunch with the sort of spires, like the spore chimneys going up in the air. There was one that was like little legs.
I'm sure we saw that at Warhammer World at some point on the tables.
Yes, yeah, they did. But they also had like smaller plastic variants that I think they did for the Assault on Black Reach, which was like the 4th edition book. Or maybe there was, I can't remember, there were like little like circular plastic little like spawning pools or something that they did once upon a time. But that'd be good to see the NIDS getting some support.
Yeah,
yeah, man. How about you, Rich? You in Dreadnought Heaven, or are you over that now? Are you going to finally get your sisters done?
Well, that's a very good. So I finally finished my Red Scorpions Dreadnought army, led by Karen Cullen and a bunch of other dreads. Got it painted up for a game last weekend. I was very glad to finally get all that all done, base transferred and everything. But yeah, what do I do next? I've been debating it a lot. Do I want to actually finish my Imperial Fists because I've kind of got a load of them still to paint up, or do I want to move on to the Sisters, or worse, go to Orcs because I really like the new Orcs as well. They look really cool. But I kind of need to not do that. I think I'm going to try and finish my Imperial Fists. Just get them done because there's a few. I've got a couple of heavy intercessors and dreadnoughts to paint there, and then I do want to move on to my Sisters of Battle because I've been meaning to do those for ages, and I really like the models, so I do want to do those.
That's fair enough, bro. That's fair enough. Get those Sisters of Battle underway. You're not intending to get them done in time for the RFW gaming event that we're attending in November?
No, gosh, no. That would I would either take my Red Scorpions or Imperial Fist to that, depending on how I'm feeling at the time.
Fair enough. It's going to be exciting though, mate. I'm looking forward to that. What's the deal with Warhammer World, by the way? Haven't they now got an event coming up?
They have. They're starting to have events. They've got a few lined up.
Are we going to try and go to that?
So the tickets go on sale on the 30th.
Oh.
Actually, no, we should tell everyone they don't go on sale for the 30th because otherwise they might buy the tickets instead of us. They go on sale on the day that isn't the 30th. No. They go on sale on the 30th. But that's when they've got a Kill Team event, a 40k event, and some Age of Sigmar events as well.
And
they haven't got any doubles, have they?
No, they haven't got any doubles events yet. They've just got standard grand tournament pack events.
Are the four of us all in on that?
Well, it's the same weekend as the LGT, which pretty much all of us, maybe with the exception of Tim, have tickets for in some capacity or other. So it depends if we're going to ditch out on that to go.
I'm totally ditching the LGT. I'm not interested.
As much as I was very excited to going to because Phil, you and I were going to go to the doubles.
Yeah, and I think the doubles would still be fun, but I assume it's still the kind of competitive GT, but doubles. But then saying that, going up to Warhammer World, you're still doing that match play GT pack. So you're doing a competitive event either way. I think my preference is actually just go up to Warhammer World a weekend, an event's not happening, and just play some games between us all.
Is that something that they are likely to facilitate though? Because it feels like with the organized play events that they can at least sort of implement some kind of COVID securities, which I appreciate isn't necessarily essential based on the current government guidance, but they could take it upon themselves to have people, be tested or whatever. Not that I think they would be able to enforce that actually based on any of the laws that govern the land at the moment when it concerns COVID, but maybe it does give some security. But yeah, because I went up to Warhammer World a few weeks ago, admittedly still before the current regulations had settled in. It's a very different experience from what I remember that gaming hall being in the olden days. It's a much more stark environment. But if it's possible for us to go up there, irrespective of that, I'd certainly be keen.
You can go and book tables. I don't know what the group numbers are at the moment, because at one point it was just you could only book a table for yourself and some other person, so i.e. 2 people. You can do group bookings. Whether that's changed or not, I think it has, but I don't know what it currently is.
I was looking into that. You could, I was looking into it a few weeks ago, so it might have relaxed more by now. But you could definitely book a table for up to a group of 6.
Oh, right.
If you want, it's getting multiple tables where it gets a bit trickier. But I can only imagine that they are relaxing a lot of their rules to some degree.
Well, they must be if they're allowing events to be happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe if they're opening up the hall again and getting it back into gear, maybe we should just take a Friday off and trek on up there.
I'd like to do the pilgrimage again. It's been so long, and I'm going to be honest, not being able to physically play games has kind of I don't know, I've unintentionally fallen out of the hobby a bit. And I kind of need to roll dice again to help me be enthusiastic about why we do this.
Well, you're always welcome here, Tim.
I know.
It's not the same. Not the same as Warhammer World.
It's better.
It's not that. Just recent events have prohibited me otherwise for the shortcomings. But once I'm up and mobile again, I will be around for sure.
Tim fell over, everyone. He fell over quite tremendously. It was quite an incredible fall.
It was quite spectacular.
Exactly. You went from 2 wheels to on your face.
I went from 2 wheels to being in A&E with being pumped up with morphine. And
beautiful.
Everybody else
morphined you up.
Yeah.
God. I remember Paula took my phone off of me to just kind of like look at the messages because I was laughing at something. And she saw those photos of you with your the horrible
road rash and stuff.
Road rash, as it were. It's like, oh my God.
Is that what you were laughing at, Dan?
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. So just when Tim was sharing photos of it, I was like, "Oh, you got to look at this." It was absolutely hilarious. I mean, because he survived, didn't he? I mean, obviously, I'd be devastated if it had gone the other way. But Tim's sending me the photos. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
You got to laugh at how friends of yours are trying to better themselves by doing physical activity, and then falling foul of gravity. It's hilarious.
Well, I wouldn't say gravity, but yeah.
No, true. I mean, gravity got involved, but it wasn't the instigator.
It was definitely involved, but it was not the instigator. Oh, it's all right. I'll do it all over again. It'll be fine.
I'm sure you will. Do you imagine now, though, you'll have various kind of like latent fears as you go out there? You'll be more nervous in the future.
Yeah, I will have a bit of that. I'm going to have to take it a bit easier before I sort of adjust to it and get used to it again.
Get back on the pace again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things.
It's tough times, man. It's the way it goes, though. But it's all part of the fun process. You'll get better again. You'll be at 1 on the road on your bicycle before long.
Exactly.
You'll bring that Olympic gold home eventually.
One day. That's the dream, right?
One day. Anyway, there we go. Yeah, all going on, right? It's an exciting time. Me and Phil went through this process, but I'm going to ask you, lads, as regulars, as I like to call you. How has 100 episodes of Lookout Sir impacted you? I mean, obviously the fame, the fortune, and everything that comes along with being associated with the podcast is. I can only imagine the transformative effect it's had on your everyday life.
Richie, do you want to take this?
I mean, there was one occasion when we were at an event and someone said, "Oh, this is the army they were talking about on the Lookout Sir podcast," and it's been all downhill since then. To be quite honest with you, because I've not been recognised since. I mean, any capacity. But no, it's been great fun. It's been great fun being able to have a be a part of this on occasion, because it's just such a great thing that we have within our group that happens regularly, and it's good to hear your voices on a now weekly basis. I'm glad you finally took that on board. Hope the numbers are still doing good for that in that regard. But no, the podcast has been great to have something nice and regular. It's helped me stay in touch with the hobby as well, because especially during the initial lockdown stuff last year, it was nice to have a focal point for for us to be thinking about and talking about stuff together.
That's awesome to hear, man. It's always nice when Richie contacts me based on something dumb we said on the pod or something. When we inadvertently are being slightly funny about him for whatever reason on the pod. Because I often forget that you actually listen to it, which is awesome. Because, I mean, so often is the case that so many other contributors don't listen. Like Tim, for example, right? I mean, have you ever listened to a full Lookout Sir 40k podcast, Tim?
I actually do. I've listened to quite a few.
No, you haven't.
No, I have.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I put them on, it's normally when I'm going into town. I used to do it when driving to work, or if I'm going up to London, or when I'm painting something. I will listen. I'll either put it on YouTube or through Apple.
Blimey. Well, there we go. So how has it been for you, Tim, to be involved in this glorious exercise as a relative latecomer to what has now become the Lookout Sir gaming group?
This is true.
Has it been a life-changing experience for you, getting to know all of us, titans of the hobby? I
Such influences.
No, exactly.
Who's called you a titan of the hobby?
Dan.
Yeah,
Myself.
Myself. I mean, I'm not nobody.
I mean, it's disrupted my life like a hamster ball does.
Probably one of the best descriptions ever. Shoo it away.
Exactly. You just shoo it away. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, back to what I was doing.
Yes.
No, it's been great. I've loved it. Like, it helps me to keep involved with the hobby and everything else. But it's just fun, like doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is.
I
think that's the thing. Like me and Phil were saying before, that I think for us next year, we definitely hope that with the changes to the ongoing situation, that we'll get back to some of the kind of root elements of the podcast, which has always kind of been more themed around the collaboration between friends and more a kind of extension of the broader gaming group that we regularly kind of converse and play within.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the heart and soul of it, and it's something that I think has been absent the last couple of years, since obviously all of the COVID things have come into effect, with varying impacts on what we've been doing. But I think definitely that kind of more group mentality is definitely appreciated, and something that I think can and should be better represented more consistently going forwards. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, again, I've said it all already, but it's great to hear your perspectives on it also. Phil, you're quietly pottering away there. It's like the old Joe episodes again. You've just slapped it on mute and just started working on some hobby projects. How has it been for you, mate?
Well, it's been great.
Exactly. He's back in his comfort zone. He's like, come back, please.
Leave me be. Well, no, this was our chance to get Richie and Tim's opinions on stuff. You don't need me to say anything more, surely.
But we want you to, Phil. That's what we want. We don't want you to feel like you need to. We want you to, we want you to want to.
Oh, fair enough. That's so kind.
Well, fantastic. Well, there we go. That'll do. Lovely, awkward ending to episode 100. Obviously, thank you, everyone, for checking out the show. If you would like to support us in any way, please, consider subscribing or liking or following us or leaving a 5-star review. All of those things are super awesome. But yeah, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Chainsaw in my pocket. It's easy to start it, but it's hard to stop it. You can cut tiny trees to make tiny